You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in, Monday edition Zach Gelb Show across all of great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, the iHeartRadio app, and streaming live on YouTube. 888-710-4ISN is the number to jump on in. That's 888-710-4476. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. Or you can follow me on TikTok at The Zach Gelb Show. Whole lot to do today. David Waters is going to join us coming up at 5:20 p.m. Eastern time from Gators Breakdown. We'll get into all the craziness that did transpire from the NFL Week 7 yesterday. It does conclude tonight with 2 games, as you do have Tampa Bay going up against Detroit, and you also do have a matchup between the Seattle Seahawks, a team that I did bet on with the Seattle Seahawks. I got to get to 2 in one of my picks this weekend, going up against the Houston Texans. Let's start off, though, with news that we knew was coming, right? We got into the reports last week from USA Today that regardless if Florida won or lost on Saturday up against Mississippi State, that in all likelihood, that was going to be it for one Billy Napier. Well, yesterday afternoon on a Sunday, I was surprised it didn't happen a little bit earlier. Surprised it didn't even happen right after the game, but they did win, so maybe that did complicate it. But on Sunday afternoon, Billy Napier was sent packing. Now, Billy Napier's a good man, right, from all accounts. I think Billy Napier tried hard. I think Billy Napier obviously wanted to win at Florida, but there was stubbornness to Billy Napier, and there were coaching problems on the field. And I think that he was in over his head. I think he was trying to do it with him calling plays, and he never really adapted. And I don't know how much the talent was the issue, because we got told a lot of times that Billy Napier is a phenomenal recruiter. Billy Napier is bringing in talent, and the results on the field were obviously not where they needed to be. So now for Florida, the question becomes, because I'm not going to sit here and do 15 minutes and bore you to death on why Billy Napier didn't work at Florida or why Billy Napier is now fired. We knew this was the worst kept secret, maybe in the history of coaches getting fired. And you could tell right when Billy Napier walked off the field, which was weird too. Like, if you're Florida, you can't get too picky these days in how you win. But you won the game, and this guy's getting booed off the field. Everyone knew that was it for Billy Napier. He knew it. And kind of similar, even though the situations are totally different because one guy was successful, the other guy was not. But when you saw James Franklin, who claimed in that PR puff piece interview with College Game Day, when you saw James Franklin say that, oh, he was told about it 15 minutes before a team meeting and he found out on that Sunday, it's hard to believe when James Franklin's sitting there playing victim on College Game Day that he was shocked by the news. Because I highlighted it when James Franklin walked off the field after the loss to Northwestern. It seemed by the way that he exhaled walking off the field, the way that he was looking around, the way that it appeared he was getting sentimental, that he knew that it was definitely a possibility, if not in all likelihood, that he was going to get fired. Billy Napier, there is no level of any doubt that Billy Napier 1,000% knew that that was it for him either way, whether he was told before the game or not. So, when we move into Florida, there's 2 questions. How is Florida viewed in this hiring cycle? And then also, who's going to be the next head coach of the Florida Gators? Let me start off with the first part that I said. With the jobs that are open right now, I would say Florida is the second best job on the market. The best job is Penn State. Penn State right now in the year of 2025 and moving forward is in a better position than what Florida is. With that being said, though, Florida is a really damn good job. But when you're dealing with Florida, and let's isolate Penn State and Florida, but when you're dealing with Florida, I wonder what the expectations are. And an old boss of mine once told me, Twitter is not reality. With that being said, though, if you just viewed Twitter, I do believe that there are unrealistic expectations already from the fans in the swamp. Florida right now is a good job. It is not a must-have job, though. Like, could they get Lane Kiffin? I'm not going to rule it out. Would I be surprised at this point if Lane Kiffin is going to leave Ole Miss for Florida? Yes, I would. And that kind of tells you everything you need to know in the year of 2025 of where Florida is at. It is a good job. Their brand is a legacy brand, but it is not a job that if you have something going well at right now that you have to take. Right? If Alabama was open Alabama's a job that you leave your really good job for Alabama. But when Florida is open, or even Penn State, you may have jobs and you may have candidates like a Cignetti, like a Lane Kiffin, that could contemplate it. But ultimately, you saw what Cignetti did. He just got a new contract. And is anyone 2 years ago, 3 years ago, if I told you and said, hey, the coach of Indiana would reject Penn State, you would ask me if I was sniffing glue. That's what you would ask me, because you wouldn't believe it. But that's the landscape now of college football. It's not really the brand. It's more so the dollars and cents. And even though Indiana is not this marquee football powerhouse program, they are getting the proper funding, and Kirk Cignetti is making things work right now. The same could be said when you look at Ole Miss. Is Ole Miss some great legacy brand for football? No. But Lane Kiffin, even though they probably should have beat Georgia and they had a disastrous fourth quarter, he's making things work. Where if you go to Florida, they're still living in the era of what they were with Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. And those are still the aspirations. But here's the misnomer with the Florida fans. You're not great anymore. It is not realistic right now to walk into Florida tomorrow and be a national championship contender. Now, you could say, Zach, look what Kurt Cignetti did at Indiana. That can happen. That can transpire. But to expect that, there are fewer Indiana turnarounds than the idea of, okay, you're just going to walk on in and be a national championship contender overnight. There are fewer people doing what Kurt Cignetti has done compared to the rest of the college football coaches, or the majority of them. So when I look at Florida, here's what I think they need to do. They need to become stable. They need to become good again before they could become great again. So if the Florida coach comes in, and whoever that next coach is, of course they're going to get to the podium. Of course they're going to say, hey, guys, we are going to win championships here. We are going to empower the alumni, and we are going to want them to be proud of their school. Like, they're going to say all the normal talking points. But when you look at Florida, you need to do back to where you're a 9 or a 10-win team, like consistently first. And then once you lay that foundation, then you pounce for higher levels of things that you could achieve. So if I'm the AD Scott Strickland, this is what I'm doing. When we talk about the candidates that are next. Like, if you're going to sit here and suggest like Dan Lanning, I can't have a conversation with you. Dan Lanning didn't leave Oregon for Alabama. Dan Lanning is not leaving Oregon for Florida. So I'm talking about realistic names. If you're going to sit there and say Marcus Freeman, well, Marcus Freeman's not leaving Notre Dame for Florida. So I will give you one name that many even view unrealistic for this job, but it's going to be the most talked about person for that job because we've had this conversation for 2 years. The number one name in the Florida faithful is Lane Kiffin. That's the first phone call. You make him some crazy offer. You make him say no. If or when, and I think it's more likely when Lane Kiffin says no, then you have to pivot elsewhere. And you know what's going to be ironic here? It's going to be me suggesting this name. Because if you listen to my show for the last several years, you know I said that this coach is not a coach that wins a championship. This is a coach that his school should have moved on from 2-3 years ago, but they finally did so this year. What am I talking about at Florida? I'm talking about bringing stability. Who's a coach that could bring stability to a program and go win 9 or 10 games a season? It's James Franklin. Right? Like, Florida has to be a contender for James Franklin. And if you're going to be a Florida fan and you're going to tell me, oh, well, he'll never win the big game, he won't win a national championship, I understand. I've been saying that for the last 2 to 4 years, right here on this network. With that being said, though, if you're Florida and I could tell you could be a 9 or 10 win team for the next 3 or 4 years, you'll take that. Because You'd rather have that than what you just had with Billy Napier. So James Franklin has to be someone that they consider. After that, if let's say James Franklin goes elsewhere, or James Franklin, it just doesn't work out and it doesn't materialize. So if you cross off the names, one is Lane Kiffin, two is James Franklin. The third phone call then needs to be to Kenny Dillingham. And I know Kenny Dillingham is an alum of Arizona State. Arizona State's in a very good spot right now, but that's not Florida. Now, Kenny Dillingham could say, I like what I have here. It's my alma mater. I'm not leaving. And if that's the case, there's nothing you could do about it. But you need a coach that is going to make people excited again. And I do think Kenny Dillingham would be an exciting hire. So after that, if let's say you go through it and Lane Kiffin says no, James Franklin says no, and Kenny Dillingham says no, then you got to get into the next set of names. I think Eli Drinkwitz would be a phenomenal hire for Penn State. I think he'd be a phenomenal hire for Florida. And he has things moving in the right direction right now at Missouri with the way that they performed the last 2 years. But I don't think Missouri is a job that you have to stay at. And I do think the personality of an Eli Drinkwitz would fit very well with the fan base like a Penn State or like a Florida. I also think that Brent Key would be a good option, and that's at Georgia Tech. Now, once again, I don't know if Brent Key is going to leave his alma mater and leave Georgia Tech right now. And here's another name that I'll throw out there. And I don't know how much this name would really excite me, but it may be a good fit at Florida. And he's been a coach that's been around for a while. He has NFL and college coaching experience. And I know he just left Arizona to go to Washington, but doesn't Jed Fish also have to be in consideration? And right now, Washington, they are 5-1. And he had 10 wins at Arizona. And oh yeah, by the way, where did Jed Fish go to school? Florida. Where was he a GA? Florida. So those are just 5 names that I thought of. And it feels like if you're Florida, you could still have a small list, but you almost have to get one of those 5 names. And those 5 names are Lane Kiffin, who I don't think you're getting, James Franklin, who I think is a definite possibility, Kenny Dillingham, Brent Key, and then also Jed Fish. Could there be other names of interest? Absolutely. Could you hire a John Sumrall? Yeah, I guess you could, but the Florida job just had a G5 coach blow up in their face, even though I think Sumrall is going to be a really good coach in the SEC one day. Could you hire an Alex Golish, who just beat you this year at USF? Yes, you could. Like, if those are one of the 2 hires, I'm not going to bitch about it. But I do think the Florida fan is not going to feel confident about it because the Florida fan is going to sit there and say, well, we were just told that Billy Napier was the young, hot, up-and-coming coach that was at a G5 school, and he was going to crush it in the Power 4, the Power 5 whenever they did hire him, right? And it didn't work out. And usually when you make a hire and it failed, the next hire isn't something that's similar. So there's right there about like 5 or 7 names that I just gave you. But schools like Penn State, schools like Florida that are really good brands, but they're not a must-have job. They need to start with established coaches in the Power 4. And they need to go through and see who you could get out of the established head coaches in the Power 4. And then if you can't get the people that you want, then that's when you break out into the G5. But it's going to be fascinating to see who Florida hires as their next coach. And you know what? The odds-on favorite right now is Lane Kiffin. I don't think it's going to be Lane Kiffin. But then the guy that has the second highest odds for the Florida job is actually someone that just got an enormous victory. And that is Jeff Brom, as Louisville defeated Miami on Friday night. But yeah, at plus 300 was Jeff Brom, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Now, Brom is at his alma mater. I don't think he's going to be the guy that gets the job. I don't think he's going to want the job, but he is a damn good coach. So who do you think's going to get the Florida job? 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. My gut instinct right now would say that it's James Franklin. That would be my first reaction. And James Franklin, he's had success in the SEC. He had those 2 solid years at Vanderbilt. He defeated Georgia one time. I know it wasn't when Georgia was Georgia, but he did. And that would be a solid hire because it fits what Florida's at right now. They need a coach to bring some stability back. And even though I don't believe James Franklin is a great coach, he's a very good coach. But very good right now for Florida would be more than satisfactory from where they're at right now in their current state. Take a break. We'll come on back. We'll get into Pete Carroll and the mess that are the Las Vegas Raiders, and also how we're sitting here at 3:16 p.m. Eastern time. And I don't think we've had any news on Mike McDaniel, but how Mike McDaniel still has a job is something I truly don't understand. Coming on back right after this.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show.
I really don't know if Chip Kelly's going to make it through the season. And I think I was the first person to really be on this train. And I called out Chip Kelly after a week 2 loss and said there was a lot that I didn't like about that offense. And there was a lot in the offseason regarding Chip Kelly where I didn't think it was going to work out. But we played you just 2 weeks ago. Pete Carroll, not kind of, but actually throwing his offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, under the bus. So yesterday, the Chiefs are playing the Raiders. I know the Raiders are banged up, but even if the Raiders are fully healthy, was anyone walking into that game expecting the Chiefs to lose to the Raiders? No, you didn't. And I even said it the other week when they got to 3-3. All right, the Chiefs are easily going to be able to get to 4-3. Sorry, Stu, like all that stuff. But yesterday, there's a difference, and this will be the key of this segment. There's a difference in being bad, and there's a difference in being embarrassing. The Raiders are a bad football team. They're also an embarrassing football team. And I know that they have 2 wins on the season. They beat the Patriots, and the Patriots didn't have things figured out. Now the Patriots do have things figured out. They're 5-2. And they also beat not the worst team in the NFL, because that's the Jets, but one of the worst teams in the NFL in the Tennessee Titans. So those are your 2 victories. You got a week 1 victory, and then you beat one of the lousiest teams in the NFL. But to not even score a point yesterday is a huge problem. Right? We're expecting you to lose, but how do you put lipstick on a pig so it doesn't look all that ugly? And this quarterback stinks too. And I know I could sit here, and I got to be fair here. I don't like Chip Kelly. But I could sit here and I could slam Chip Kelly until the cows come home. But it wasn't Chip Kelly's decision to go bring in Geno Smith. That's a Pete Carroll's decision. And Pete Carroll, oh my. That decision to bring in Geno Smith is backfired. And here's the confusing part about it. I understand that Geno Smith and Pete Carroll worked well with the Raiders. But here's with the Seahawks, excuse me. But here's what the problem the Raiders have. The Raiders, they're just trying to bring stability back. And they're just trying to get this team off the ground. The problem with that, when you do that, is you still have to have a high expectation level, or at least bring in people that make sense. Now, Geno Smith, you could throw him on a team like the Seahawks, and he could have this career rejuvenation project, but it's because the Seahawks were a solid team. The Raiders aren't a solid team. So if you're bringing in a guy that, right, at best is anywhere from 15th to 20th in the quarterback rankings, you can't cut corners at that position when your roster isn't just good enough. And that's why, okay, you bring in Geno Smith. Oh, at least it's someone Pete Carroll knows. Oh, at least it'll bring some stability. All right, at least they could go win 7 games or 8 games or so. And it's like, you cheaped out, even though they're paid him and guaranteed him a good amount of money. But you cheaped out and you tried to cut corners at the most important position, not just in the NFL, but in sports. And you can get away with that when you have a really good roster. You can get away with that like when you were in Seattle and you have DK Metcalf. You had Jackson Smith and Jigba. You had Kenneth Walker. You had Tyler Lockett. Right? You get away with that there. But when you look at the Raiders, sure, they have Ashton Genty. Yes, Brock Bowers is hurt. And you got Max Crosby. But outside that, like, what do you really got in the Raiders? You don't got much. So the Raiders right now are in a spot where they're just trying to get this team stabilized, but you're competing in a division where the Chiefs are the best team right in the AFC. I understand you can say, oh, the Colts, they have the best record in the NFL. What about the Bills? What about the Pats? What about the Steelers? Right? Like, there's other teams that obviously have a better record than the Kansas City Chiefs. But the Chiefs are still the team that you fear the most. Then you also got the Chargers and the Broncos. And those teams are obviously much better than what the Raiders are. So what the Raiders are doing right now is they're bringing in people where they're saying, oh, we don't need them to be great. We just want them to fix up the house and give us some foundation that gets off the ground. But the problem when you do that, now looking back at it, is you don't put your team in the best possible situation. Like, Pete Carroll is a Hall of Fame coach. Is Pete Carroll, though, in the year of 2025 still a Hall of Fame coach? No. Right? Like, if Pete Carroll needed to do well this year and next year in order to solidify his spot in the Hall of Fame, he wouldn't do it. But you are looking at what he was in the past. And you know what I'll say with one of my favorite coaches of all time, Bill Belichick. Look at the difference with the Patriots with Mike Vrabel compared to where they were. I know there's Draw Mayo in between. But where they were with the last few years of Belichick. Belichick, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but in the year of 2025, Belichick and Pete Carroll, those guys are dinosaurs. And they're rooted in their old ways. And I love Belichick, but just look at what happened with Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel right now is aggressive. He's going for it on fourth down. I never saw that under Bill Belichick. Mike Vrabel's a guy where he's a player's coach, but he's on a doormat. Belichick's not a player's coach. Belichick, it's my way or the highway. And that style just doesn't fit in the year of 2025. And I'm not saying that, hey, Pete Carroll's a dictator. He's not. Pete Carroll's actually a player's coach. But you could tell the game has passed him by. And you're seeing it this year with the Raiders, where I know that the talent is a problem. I know they're decimated with injuries. But they're sitting there with the 2-5 record. And they couldn't even be competitive for a half. That game, when it was 21-0 at half, that game is over. There's no way the Raiders are getting back into that game. So I look at the Raiders right now. I can guarantee Chip Kelly's going to get fired by the end of the season because Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly aren't getting along. But then once that happens, when Chip Kelly gets fired, all the attention's going to go to Pete Carroll because it was Pete Carroll who brought in Geno Smith. And once you get rid of the offensive coordinator, that's the scapegoat, even if it's deserved. And then you would turn your attention to somebody else, and I don't think the Raiders are going to turn it around. So the Raiders right now, it's ugly. I think because of the respect that Pete Carroll has in the league, he will not be one and done. But I'll tell you this. I would be really surprised if Pete Carroll gets 3 years with the Raiders. I think that's a 3-year contract. This feels like at the end of 1 year, people will go, okay, that's not the right hire. Then in year number 2, they may not fire him in season, but by the end of year number 2, you're not going to have enough of a turnaround where all of a sudden then people are going to be clamoring to see Pete Carroll for a third season. So that's where we're at with the Raiders. Now, let's get to the Dolphins. 30 past the hour right now. It's 3:30 p.m. Eastern time here on the East Coast. Unless if I missed something in the last 10 minutes from the last time I said this, how the heck does Mike McDaniel still have a job? Now, I know people are going to get on Chris Greer, the general manager, And I thought this guy should have been fired before the season anyway started in Chris Grier. Firing a GM in season, it doesn't really do much for me. You can obviously do it. Once you get rid of McDaniel, you probably should get rid of Chris Grier as well. But in season, you're not really focused on the GM. You're focused on the head coach. How Mike McDaniel still has a job today when his team is 1-6. And at least the Raiders, right? They got blown out by the Kansas City Chiefs. The Dolphins, you look at the Browns and the Finns, this is just something where you look at it, it's okay, that should at least be a game that's not going to be pretty, but at least should be a close game. Maybe at most the winner wins by 10 points, but nothing more than that. It was a 31-6 game. And let's be clear, this head coach hates the quarterback and the quarterback hates the head coach. And we all know it. We all know it. And there's no control in that locker room. Mike McDaniel has created a culture that is non-existent, and it's a free-for-all. And Tua Tagovailoa just doesn't have the respect of his teammates. And that's clear and obvious. Anyone could watch it. Anyone could see it. Anyone could tell you that. And Tua Tagovailoa has turned into a turnover machine. And you had this head coach and Mike McDaniel. This guy's lost. I've been saying this for 2 years that he's lost just by listening to his press conferences, and I can't take him seriously. But can you look like a damn head coach, please? You can't look like a joke on the sideline. And I understand he's wearing a very expensive pair of glasses, but do you know how sad you looked yesterday? You are the guy that was the cool kid, right, in high school. And then you go back to your high school reunion, like your 30-year reunion, you're a loser, but you're still dressing like you're the cool kid. Everyone knows you're not. And it's raining yesterday. He's got, I think it's the Gucci glass. He looks like a fool. An absolute fool. And Stephen Ross, I know it's 3:30 p.m. Eastern time and you're an older man, and old men, they like to take naps at this hour. Is that the only reason why Mike McDaniel still has a job and Chris Grier still has a job? Are you asleep right now? How have you not fired both of those two bozos already? Or are you just fine being the biggest joke or one of the biggest jokes in the NFL? What are you doing? You're lucky you have the Jets in your division. And these people they have a tough time deciding who's the biggest joke in the NFL. Or is it the Jets with Aaron Glenn, or is it the Dolphins with Mike McDaniel? Both those teams, man, what a disaster both those teams are. But this Miami Dolphins, are you going to do anything? This isn't year one. This duo has been around for a long time now. And you're going to sit here and you're going to accept these results? I used to joke about this. I used to say, what photos does Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel have of Stephen Ross? They got to have incriminating photos. They have to. Because this owner is either asleep, he's either clueless, or he just doesn't care. Or my favorite answer on multiple choice when I was a kid, maybe it's all the above. If you actually care about your football team, if you're actually paying attention to your football team, I would have fired these two bozos weeks ago. But after you lose 31-6 to the Cleveland Browns and you're 1-6 on the season, how do you let that duo of Grier and McDaniel be together and be running your operation and your organization for the game up against the Falcons on Sunday in Atlanta? How do you do it? How? It makes no sense to me. And I know we're all focusing on Tua and Grier and McDaniel, but what is this owner doing? Does he have a clue? Does he have a pulse? Does he understand how embarrassing his team is right now and the big fat joke that the Miami Dolphins have been? And it could change quickly in this league. But you don't got the GM, you don't got the head coach, and you don't got the quarterback. And you're just going to sit there like you're that dog in the house, right? And the house is on fire. Everything's up in flames. And you're like, yeah, everything's fine. Because your silence and your lack of movement and not getting rid of McDaniel or Grier, oh, my goodness gracious. You either don't care, you're either the most tone-deaf owner in the league, or you just don't understand how big of a joke you are. Either way, whatever the truth is, it's embarrassing. It is beyond embarrassing. Ringling Brother and Barnum and Bailey Circus, right? Didn't they shut down all those years ago? Oh, the Dolphins are open. This is a 24/7 just circus. If the Jets and the Dolphins were in a park on a seesaw ride, they'd be even. They'd be going back and forth on that seesaw ride. Oh, I'm a joke, I'm a joke, I'm a joke, I'm a joke, I'm a clown, I'm a clown, I'm a clown, I'm a clown. That's what it is. Those two organizations, they don't know the difference between their elbow and their ass. Oh, my God. Take a timeout. We'll get to a news brief on the other side. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's brought to you by Advantage Gold. Before kickoff, get help securing your financial future with Advantage Gold today. Text GOLD to 85545 now and request your free gold investment kit, or go to AdvantageGold.com for terms. Message and data rates may apply. It's been said every time the situation comes up, there's nothing like a Game 7. The Blue Jays host the Mariners in the deciding game tonight at Rogers Center in the ALCS. Toronto has rallied twice in this series to be in this spot. Manager John Schneider excited to be in this moment.
Got to enjoy it, man. This is what we sign up for. Whenever you can play for Game 7 to go to the World Series, it sounds kind of cool to say it, But this is why we sacrifice everything. That's why players sacrifice everything. Again, it's special and unique, but you have to look at it as a game.
The Blue Jays haven't won a pennant in 32 years. They'll start Shane Bieber, while the Mariners are looking for their first ever AL championship and hand the ball to George Kirby. Albert Pujols no longer a candidate to fill the Angels managerial vacancy, but will reportedly interview with the Padres. The Panthers' Bryce Young reportedly has a high ankle sprain and could miss Week 8. Florida State announced it'll determine Mike Norvell's future after the season following 4 straight losses. I'm Rich Ackerman. You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
It's time to ask the pros. You, the listener, gets to ask us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag AskThePros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Let's go to Sean Payton. I haven't heard this one yet. He had some subtle shade at Russell Wilson yesterday, as you did have the Broncos playing the Giants, and Russell Wilson was the backup quarterback in this one. Let's listen up.
I have a ton of respect for that organization. I spent 4 of my early years there, close with the Mayor Tisch family. You know, they found a little spark with that quarterback. I was talking to John Mayer not too long ago, and I said we were hoping that that change would have happened long after our game.
Huh.
But anyway.
He's like, I wanted Russ. I knew Russ was washed. That's why I moved off of him in Denver before basically the season even started. Oh, man, that's something. And he does seem like he's someone that would definitely hold a grudge. Hey, Nico, since you're a Giant fan, how are you kind of dealing with that loss yesterday? Because it looked like you guys were cruising to a victory. Then you blew the game. Then it looked like you were going to survive blowing the game. And then you did lose the game. I think for a Giant fan, it's all about the young quarterback, and there's a reason to believe in the young quarterback. I know you threw a bad interception at the end, but this is the first game where you could tell me, okay, wins and losses don't matter, right? But this is one that it feels like, you don't want to lose that way if you're going to lose a football game.
Yeah, I think no matter the situation, anytime you blow a 19-point fourth quarter lead, it's not good. But for me, it's more the idea that I don't want, and this might be an unpopular opinion in Giants land, I don't want Brian Daboll to be fired because I think that he deserves a lot of credit for what Jackson Dart has looked like in his first 4 games. And if the Giants continue to lose these types of games, it's only going to open the door for a head coaching change. And I don't know if that's the right move to make in terms of continuing to develop Jackson Dart in a positive way. Now, I had this game on in the background because I was doing the game for Compass Media Networks with the Cowboys and the Commanders. It was an 18-point lead that they blew, right? Well, they were up 19-0. Then Denver made it 19-8, then 26-8, right? Okay. I thought you meant just in the fourth quarter.
I was going to say, did Nico have a little math flub there by 1? Not that, we're real strict people here when it comes to math because I mess things up all the time, but I thought I got you in there somewhere. Or maybe you're just because you're wearing the Bryce Underwood jersey, so maybe 19 is right there. Yeah, that was a bad one, though. Oh, that was bad. And right when Dart had the interception, I'll let you in a little secret. I went to my DraftKings app, and I took the Broncos on a live line plus 300. So your boy won some money at the expense of Nico's tears yesterday. Let's go to Bo Nix, who's on CBS. He calls out the fans who left early.
Well, I feel bad for the people that left early. A complete team effort in the fourth quarter. It was really bad there for a point. The morale was low on the sideline, but guys never quit. Took a few plays, and then next thing you know, Will Lutz is kicking a game winner, and man, I can't believe it. I haven't really had one like that, so that's a first for me.
All righty, let's get to another game, Colts and Chargers. I thought the Colts were going to win. I didn't think they were going to thoroughly dominate the Los Angeles Chargers, but that's what they did in a 38-24 victory. Jonathan Taylor had 3 rushing touchdowns in the game, and Shane Steichen has some high praise for his running back.
Yeah, I think he's the best. He's the best back in the league right now. There's no doubt. And I think it starts with our guys up front. He's running hard. He's running physical. He's got great vision. Yeah, he's balling out right now.
All righty, let's get to my good friend Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel is now 1-6. The Miami Dolphins just got slaughtered by the Cleveland Browns. Mike McDaniel is not thinking about his job security.
The way I look at this job is I find it very offensive to all parties involved. If I'm thinking about having the job, I need to be doing my job. So as long as I coach for the Miami Dolphins in this organization, they'll get everything from me, and I refuse to spend my time thinking about something that you have a job, you do your job, and you do it to the best of your ability. And that's where my concern lies. I think it's offensive to all coaches, players, and the organization if I'm spending that precious time thinking about myself.
And let's get to Mike McDaniel when he was asked about if Tua Tagovailoa will start in the Dolphins' next game.
Yeah, he's going to take the snaps this week, and he's going to be our starter this week. And my expectation is that we don't throw 10 picks.
Oh, my God. Now, I don't know what the spread is early for that one. And I thought Atlanta celebrated too much last week, and then they obviously didn't get the job done up against the 49ers. I don't care what the number is. I will lay it with the Falcons with that pass rush that they have. I just looked it up. 7.5 is Atlanta. I bet you that's going to be 9.5 to 10 by kickoff. The Dolphins are cooked. If they let Mike McDaniel coach on Sunday, there is no chance the Dolphins, even though I don't think Raheem Morris had anything special, there's no chance the Dolphins win that game. Let's get to Pete Carroll. Was he surprised by the blowout loss to the Kansas City Chiefs?
This was a game that Ned didn't see coming. We had prepared really well. We were tuned into it, and I couldn't imagine that the guys that weren't able to play in this game would make that much of a factor. I just didn't feel that in our preparation. But when we have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of catching up to do.
Pete Carroll should be enjoying himself at this stage of life. You don't need to be coaching the Raiders. All right? This is what happens. You're addicted to coaching. You just don't know when to walk away. ESPN, College Game Day, Miss Terry, Nick Saban's wife, was asked, would Nick Saban take the Penn State job?
Miss Terry, they offer $50 million a year. You guys going to coach at Happy Valley?
Look, Pat, I have no doubt if Nick wanted to go back to coaching, he could win his 8th national championship, but we're having too much fun, and we wouldn't want to take that opportunity away from all of our baby coaches like Kirby and Ray.
Yeah, you're right.
Too much fun. I haven't heard a number yet, Pat.
Okay, well, 50 is not enough, it sounds like, but there is a number, Coach. A lot of Ferraris.
There's a number. Mrs. Always Right has spoken.
Here's a $50 million ain't enough for Nick Saban to be coaching at Penn State, okay? It's a good job, but come on, that's not enough money. I think Nick Saban enjoys himself right now in what he's doing. And I don't think that he would get back into coaching college with the headaches that come with that. The coach I think would get involved that's on television is Urban Meyer. But all the attention right now is on Nick Saban. Let's go to James Franklin. This is ESPN College Game Day where he did this soft landing spot interview on what's next for him.
I don't know anything else. I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't have hobbies. I don't golf. I don't fish. This has been such a big part of my identity, such a big part of my family. We love it. So I think it was take a deep breath, kind of in shock, surreal for a moment. And then it's, hey, we got to get back to doing what we do. And I can't wait for that next challenge. And we're going to go win a national championship at the highest level.
My blood really didn't boil in this interview at all. The one part that it did was when Nick Saban was basically trying to hold the hand of James Franklin in this interview. Here's Nick Saban telling James Franklin that his firing was unfair.
You made the statement, it's not like up to you to decide what's fair or unfair when Reese answered that question. I'm going to answer it. It's unfair as hell for you to go to the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, get in the Final Four, come out being ranked #1 this year, an expectation that you created by what you accomplished at Penn State. And for those people not to show enough appreciation for that and gratitude for all the hard work that you did, I'm saying it's unfair.
Nick Saban just doesn't get it here, and he's tone deaf. And I understand he's helping out a coach there in that spot by speaking positively of him. I don't think there's been anybody that has fought more with Penn State fans in the last 3 years to tell them that James Franklin wasn't the guy more than me. And there were a lot of loyal Penn State fans. But you're supposed to win a national championship this year, and you lose to Oregon, another big game loss, and then you followed up with the loss up against UCLA and Northwestern. How is the firing unfair? And not only that, I think Penn State fans do acknowledge James Franklin was a good coach, but he reached his apex at Penn State. And he wasn't going to be a guy that wins a national championship. And the irony of all this is that Nick Saban, who held himself to the highest standard and who is synonymous with winning championships and is one of the greatest winners we've ever seen in the history of sports, he's going to sit there and be like, no, James, you can continue to fail year after year after year after year in a big game. But just because you got to some big games, and even though you don't win them, you know what? It was unfair how they treated you. Like, what? That Nick Saban is not the Nick Saban that I knew. That Nick Saban wouldn't tolerate that standard. And if Nick Saban was on this show, I'd say one thing. Would you be okay losing all those big games that James Franklin lost? Do you think you would have been the coach at Alabama as long as you were if you lost that many big games and didn't win all those national championships? Come on. Nick Saban is better than that answer. And that answer is not the standard that Nick Saban held himself to. So don't give these other coaches passes. Zach Gelb here with you, Infinity Sports Network. That's a news brief where we update some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We'll take a time out. It is a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show, and every Monday and Friday we do a little onside, offside. So Samter has a ton of questions for me. We'll get to them on the other side. Also, it's kind of crazy. We have so much happenings in college football, so many happenings in the NFL. You got 2 games. I also got a Game 7 tonight in baseball. As you do have the Blue Jays and the Mariners, and we'll see who have the right to go up against Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers in the World Series. Coming on back a little onside, offside. We will return in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. David Waters, who does a great job, Gators Breakdown. He's going to join us an hour 20 from now at 5:20 p.m. Eastern Time, as we'll get you all caught up to date on the aftermath of Billy Napier being fired yesterday from the Florida Gators, and who else could be ending up replacing Billy Napier. A lot of candidates out there right now. But first up, it is a Monday on the show. So each and every Monday, we do a little onside, offside, and we get to that right now.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
All righty, what do we got cooking today?
All right, we love talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Now, despite trading Micah Parsons before the season and a couple ugly losses, the Cowboys are actually second in the NFC East at 3-1 after smashing the Commanders yesterday. Brian Schottenheimer's offense leads the NFL in yards per game, while Dak is second in both passing yards and touchdowns. The Commanders, however, fell to 3-4, and Jaden Daniels was hurt again. And after an MRI today on his hamstring, he should be okay. There's not a significant injury they just reported. However, he's been hurt a few times already this year, and Marcus Mariota has had to step in. So onside, offside, the Cowboys are the second best team in the NFC East.
You get a little banged up this weekend, Samter? Or you just you have a little cold?
No, this is just my voice.
Oh, your voice sounds a little scratchy today. I didn't realize it when we were talking before the show, but until you were reading that question, I thought to myself, man, Samter sounds a little sick. You got sniffles.
Yeah,
Sniffle Samter.
Saturday afternoon, evening, there was a game on the tube that led to my screaming and yelling, yes.
That was all from Arizona State?
Let's go!
Well,
Forks up, baby.
That's what you can't, when you have a voice like that, you can't do the let's go and
let's
then
go.
No, that's not good, because then you're gonna come in tomorrow and you're gonna sound like Derek Zoolander when he went into the coal mine and he's coughing up and going, Pop, I got the black lung. Pop, I got the black lung. That's what's gonna happen.
You know what? I think the chat will be happy not to hear from me tomorrow.
I think the chat likes you. I do. Anyway, the Cowboys are the second best team in the NFC East. I said this before the start of the season, that the Commanders were going to regress and the Commanders were going to miss the playoffs. Now, Jaden Daniels banged up with the hamstring injury. The Cowboys' defense isn't great, obviously. It's not a good defense. Matt Eberflus is not a good defensive coordinator. But the Cowboys can score. They have number one offense in the NFL statistically. And Dak Prescott's playing good football. You got George Pickens. You got CeeDee Lamb now back. He had a wonderful 74-yard touchdown yesterday. The Cowboys actually ran the ball too yesterday, which they weren't able to do a week prior. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be all that good, but I think the Commanders are going to fall back this year. And if you tell me the Cowboys finish in second in this division, I wouldn't be shocked. So after yesterday, I can't say offsides in this one, so I'm going onsides.
The 49ers just keep on trucking. Despite missing Brock Purdy for multiple games, losing all pros Nick Bosa and Fred Warner on the defensive side, having George Kittle out with injury, and missing both top wideouts Brandon Ayuk for the entire season and Ricky Pearsall for a couple games as well, Kyle Shanahan and the 5-2 San Francisco 49ers are tied atop the NFC West with the Rams. So onside, offside, Kyle Shanahan is Coach of the Year at this point.
I just did a sports minute on this. I think there are 3 Coach of the Year candidates right now that have a chance to win the award. Mike Vrabel in New England, Shane Steichen with the Indianapolis Colts, and Kyle Shanahan with the San Francisco 49ers. Now, what would make each of those 3 deserving of the award? Well, Mike Vrabel has the Patriots at 5-2. They've been a bottom 5 team in the NFL the last few years. He's instantly turned that around, and the Patriots could win the division this year, or bare minimum, they are expected to be a wild card team. Then you look at Kyle Shanahan. All this guy does is win with players that have been decimated with injuries, and he's playing a ton of backups. But then I look at Shane Steichen. This guy right now has the best record in the NFL. They're 6-1. 6-1. Now, the Buccaneers could be 6-1 after tonight, too. But Shane Steichen is doing it while rejuvenating the career of Daniel Jones. So it's close. You're splitting hairs. But I'm going to say right now, if the season were to end today, Shane Steichen is the Coach of the Year. So Kyle Shanahan is the Coach of the Year at this point. Slightly go offside.
Offside.
Now, the Vikings fell to the Eagles 28-22, but some believe the score should have been closer. Trailing 28-19 with 3 minutes to go, Carson Wentz seemed to throw a touchdown pass to TJ Hockenson, but replay review overturned the play as the tight end bobbled the ball after hitting the ground. Then, Hockenson went off on the refs and New York postgame.
No, I mean, I had control the whole time. My hands were underneath it. I mean, I don't quite understand how the refs on the field, even after New York overturns it, the refs on the field are saying it's a catch, but they said New York overturns it, so they have nothing to say. So I don't understand how New York can call in and just be like, yeah, that's not a catch, when there was no evidence that it wasn't. I mean, I had it. I just think it's ridiculous, especially when every ref came up to me after and says, we had that as a catch. I don't understand it. So can't buy one, honestly.
Onside, offside, that was a catch.
When I saw it, I saw that it was ruled as a catch on the field. Did I see a replay that said to me it should have been overturned? No. But in my mind, and I saw this live, I said to myself, I bet you they're going to overturn that. Just with the way that it's been officiated. And I called my uncle after I did the Cowboys game last night. And I wanted to catch up about the Patriot game with my Uncle Gary and all that stuff. And out of nowhere, he just brought it up. He goes, oh, the Vikings got screwed in that game. They go, it's supposed to be irrefutable evidence. He goes, there was not a clear replay that showed that it should have definitely been overturned. And I said to him, I go, you're right, but I just thought that they were going to overturn it. Do I think that they should have kept the call on the field? Yes, they didn't. And I was kind of expecting that they weren't going to, but I did think that was a catch. I remember seeing that. I said to myself, they're not going to call that a catch, but that should be a catch to me. But that's the problem with the NFL. You don't know what a defensive pass interference is. You don't know what anyone knows that hit the quarterback anymore. And you also don't know what the heck a catch is. It's crazy. But the NFL has us all by the cojones, and we'll keep on watching each and every week. So that was a catch. If I was the official, I would say that was a catch onside.
Now, the Bengals beat the Steelers on Thursday to keep their season alive, but trade rumors about Trey Hendrickson are continuing on. Before Sunday's games, Ian Rappaport reported that the Bengals' asking price for the all-pro pass rusher, and it's not as high as you would think.
Teams are going to call. I would expect Henderson to be a big-time trade target. As far as what it might take, what I am told is a young player who would help the Bengals this year and into the future, and a future mid-round pick if the Bengals are even willing to do it.
Surprised that mid-round pick is an option, but onside, offside, Trey Hendrickson will be dealt before the deadline.
So I think the deadline is November 5th. Right now, they're 3-4. They play the Jets and they play the Bears. So the Bears have won 4 in a row, to be fair. And then it's a bye week, and during that bye week is when the NFL trade deadline happens. Bare minimum, they're going to split. So if they split, they're sitting there at 4-5. If they win both, they will then be 5-4. As long as they win one of those next 2 games, I don't think they're trading Trey Hendrickson, because they're at least going to have this feeling of, even though he's on the final year of his contract, we could get Joe Burrow back. And if you get Joe Burrow back and you trade Trey Hendrickson, you have a chance to go make the playoffs. It's going to be a bad look for that organization. So Hendrickson will be dealt before the deadline. I think they win one of these next 2 games, so I'm going to go offside.
Offside. The Jaguars got smoked 35-7 by the Rams in London yesterday, dropping their second straight to fall to 4-3. While Travis Hunter had by far his best game, securing his first career 100-yard receiving performance, the Jags gave up 7 sacks and were held scoreless for the first 3 quarters, yet still sit in the final AFC playoff spot at number 7. So onside, offside, the Jaguars will make the playoffs.
Nice little story. Liam Cohen was the beginning of the season. This team ain't making the playoffs. They're just not. And Matthew Stafford, man, 5 touchdowns yesterday for the LA Rams. So I think the Jaguars can be fine this year. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, though. So the Jaguars will make the playoffs. Offside.
Offside. Billy Napier's out in Florida, and now the speculation begins as to who replaces him. One hot name, of course, is Chucky John Gruden, who admitted on Barstool that he'd love to get back into coaching.
It's nice to have your name mentioned with every job, but like it's kind of nice that your name gets thrown around.
Absolutely.
There.
I absolutely love football. I love it. And it's pretty much all I have. You know, I have an office for the people that don't know. I've got a server in there. I just put a lot of money into a server that collects all the films and allows me to study them. And who knows what will happen, but I'm preparing myself as always to coach. But behind the scenes, we're getting plenty of football, I promise you.
In the same episode, Gruden sung the praises of one NFL team that could potentially be looking for a new coach depending on how the rest of the season goes.
I like them, man. I like them. I'm really impressed. After they lose 30-0 to Carolina, I think everybody was on their ass. You know, this is a bad team, typical Falcons. But what they did coming back, there's a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of confidence. Mike Penix, man, I'm telling you, this guy is a very talented cat.
Yeah.
He can really spin it. And Drake London is starting to play like Andre Johnson.
Yeah.
And Kyle Pitts is showing why he was the top 10 pick. When they get Darnell Mooney back, I think they have a lot of firepower, man. Bijan's special.
No,
the defense, we call these guys the blank squad. Nobody knows their name. They play their asses off, man.
You not watch the game last night?
Well, this was before the game happened, but yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, this wasn't on Wake Up Barstool this morning?
It wasn't on Wake Up Barstool
okay.
this morning. It was over the weekend.
Okay, gotcha.
But still, he sounds very high on the Falcons, and onside, offside, let's say the Falcons job is open, it would be a better fit for Gruden than Florida.
Well, he's a pro coach, so sure. I would not hire John Gruden if I was the Atlanta Falcons. If I'm a college program, I'd take a chance on John Gruden. But do I think John Gruden is who? I like John Gruden, but ever since he won that Super Bowl, the dude hasn't been anything that special. So the Falcons would be a better fit for Gruden in Florida. I think Gruden's personality would do better in college than the NFL moving forward into the year of 2026. So I'll say offside on that one.
Offside.
Now, lots of movement in the SEC as A&M, Bama, Georgia, and Vandy all won, while Tennessee, LSU, and Ole Miss lost. Bama has won 6 straight after that opening weekend loss to FSU, who's also in a free fall.
You know what you sound like, by the way, today?
Tell me.
I think Nico would get this more than you. Doesn't he sound a little bit like Scarpacci with that voice?
I can kind of hear it a little bit now that you mention it.
Yeah, if I wasn't looking at Samter and I just heard him speak the way that he was just speaking, I would think that Scarpacci is on the show today. You guys don't look anything alike, to be clear.
People have said that we look very similarly.
I don't think anyone has ever said that.
No.
But your guys' voice today sound very similar. But anyway, continue with the segment here.
So Alabama jumped up to number 4, while Georgia moved to number 5, with their only loss being against that same tied team. Onside, offside, you have more faith in Bama winning it all than you do Georgia this year.
I made one future bet for the college football season. Alabama to win the national championship at plus 900. Georgia, they're begging for someone to take them out. And I know Bama beat Georgia. But how they came on back against Tennessee was ridiculous. And after the way that Ole Miss played through the first 3 quarters, how Georgia won that game in the 4th quarter is crazy. Now, Georgia, they remind me of the NFL version of the Chiefs, where we all keep on saying they're vulnerable. I know Georgia hasn't won a national championship the last 2 years, but they did win the SEC last year. Bama's playing good defense. They are forcing turnovers at the right time. Gunnar Stockton, even though he's a good quarterback, Ty Simpson's better. I will have more faith in Alabama winning it all than Georgia. Yeah, I'll go on sides on that. It also win me a lot of money, too, if somehow Alabama could win it all this year at plus 900.
Now, after Miami's shocking loss on Friday to Louisville, Georgia Tech beat Duke on Saturday and jumped the Canes as the highest-ranking ACC team at number 7. Haynes King is rolling for the Yellow Jackets, leading the team in obviously passing and rushing, while adding 10 touchdowns on the ground, but surprisingly only has 4 touchdown passes on the season. Onside, offside, Georgia Tech is the best team in the ACC.
It's just crazy because I'm looking at the standings. Florida State is 0-4 in conference. Remember when they were 3-0? Remember when they beat Alabama?
How did they beat Bama?
Boston College was in a bowl game last year. They're 1-6. UNC with Bill Belichick is 2-4. Fran Brown with Syracuse, the great story they were last year, they're now 3-4. Oh my God. Clemson, 3-4. A lot of disappointment here in the ACC. And how about the surprise of Virginia? Our guy Tony Elliott, they're 6-1. Yeah, Haynes King is just it. I will trust Haynes King in a big game more than I will Carson Beck. And you saw Carson Beck throw 4 interceptions over the weekend on that Friday night loss to Louisville. Even though the wide receivers that fall for the last one, he'll be the first one to tell you. Yeah, I do think Georgia Tech with Brent Key is the best team in the ACC. I'll go on sides on that one.
Once again, Brian Kelly showed he suffers
Tiger family.
He suffers from James Franklin-itis, losing another big game for LSU.
Yeah, man.
This time against Vandy, Kelly is now 34-13 in 3+ seasons in the Bayou, and is 5-10 against ranked teams as the coach of the Tigers. Onside, offside, LSU should move on from Brian Kelly.
I think they're going to give him another year, but is it going to work out the way that they envisioned it, where you had 3 national championship winning coaches there since the early 2000s? Since 2000, and Nick Saban, Les Miles, and then Ed Orgeron? No, I do not. And here's the scary part about this. I knew Vandy was going to win the game going in. Why? Because Vandy has an offense, LSU does not. And even when it was in the third quarter, I think it was at 24-21, I said, I'm surprised LSU has this many points, but if this is going to be a shootout, Vanderbilt's going to win. So when Brian Kelly has his offense humming, his defense stinks. Now the defense is good, the offense stinks. They never get on the same page. So LSU should move on from Brian Kelly. This ain't going to work, so you better trim the fat now. But I think they're going to wait another year. But if I'm them, yeah, I would move on from at the end of the season. So I go on sides on that.
Now, Penn State and Clemson were both preseason top 5 teams, and both obviously fell out of the rankings following awful starts to the season. On Saturday, Clemson fell to 3-4 as QB Cade Klubnik sat with an injury, while Penn State's interim coach Terry Smith lost his debut to drop the Nittany Lions to 0-4 in the Big Ten. Wow. Onside, offside, Penn State has been more disappointing than Clemson.
This is the toughest question that you've ever asked me, and I truly do not know how to answer it. Because they have been equally disappointing. Both of these teams were national championship contenders. I guess the answer is Penn State. I'm going to lean Penn State here because of just how quickly it is unraveled. Clemson week 1 showed you who they were. And you knew it was going to be Penn State. They had a chance against Oregon to show that maybe they were the best team in the country. Then after that, once they lost that game in double overtime, they had Northwestern and UCLA happen in back-to-back weeks. So, yeah, I guess I'm going to go Penn State on that answer, even though you can't. If you said that it was Clemson, I'm not going to call you an idiot, a moron, and a dope. I'd probably also agree. Like, both these answers are right, but if you make me pick one, I'm going to say yes, Penn State's been more disappointing on sides.
If you're watching on the stream, forks up, baby. Let's go. Sanford Sun Devils, Sun Devils.
I'm going to outlaw you rooting for Arizona State because I can't deal with this each and every day if you're going to have a voice like this.
You know what? It's got to suck to see my team actually doing well in one of my sports. Everywhere I go, my teams suck, except for the Sun Devils.
Here's the thing. You could watch the games. You need to watch the games instead of drinking alcohol. You need to drink tea. Tea with honey to preserve the voice. I need your voice.
Well, I will do my best. I'll tell Sam Levitt.
I actually want to hear from you.
I'll tell Sam Levitt to stop giving me a heart attack in every game. Every single game ASU plays, it comes down to the last possession.
You got a wife, you got a kid, you got responsibilities. I think you got to simmer down a little bit when you watch the game.
Hey, Kenny, Sam, this is a message to you guys. Stop driving us crazy and just win the damn games. But they did win. They blew a fourth-quarter lead to number 7 Texas Tech before winning the game with a last possession late touchdown. Thanks to, obviously, Sam Levitt, Jordan Tyson, and the rest of the offense. ASU is now 5-2, while the Red Raiders dropped to 6-1, though BYU moved up to number 11, currently holding the lead in the conference at 7-0 overall. So, onside, offside, BYU is actually the best team in the Big 12.
I think a lot of people forgot about Arizona State, right, because they already had the 2 losses. And one of those games, they didn't have their quarterback in Sam Levitt, just like how one of their losses last year was without Sam Levitt. BYU is the best team. You know what? This is what I've learned. Even though what BYU has done is remarkable. Whenever somebody asks me BYU or the field or any Big 12 team or the field this early still in the season, I'll take the field. Because that's the Big 12. Whenever you say one team is the best team in the Big 12, they immediately lose. So I'm going to take the field here. I'll go offsides.
Offside. All right, we'll do one last quick one outside of football into the baseball world. Few things better in sports than a Game 7, and we get one in the ALCS as the Blue Jays even the series at 3-3 with a huge 6-2 win in Toronto. George Kirby takes them out for the Mariners, while the Jays throw out former Cy Young winner Shane Bieber with first pitch at 8:10 Eastern tonight. Onside, offside, the Mariners have a better chance of beating the Dodgers than the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and Kirby got abused the last time he was on the mound, but I like that rotation for the Mariners. So I do think that the Mariners, I don't think either team's going to beat the Dodgers. Maybe the layoff will end up hurting the Dodgers, but I'm going to say, yeah, the Mariners have a better chance of beating the Dodgers and the Blue Jays because of the potential in that starting rotation. So I will go on sides on that. We'll take a break. When we come on back, Penn State open, Florida open in the last 2 weeks. Other jobs have obviously been open as well. What are some other jobs that could be opening in the college football landscape? David Waters is going to join us from Gators Breakdown in an hour from now, 5:20 p.m. Eastern Time. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
You know, we've already had 3 ADs that had to voice statements of support for their current head coach. Bill Belichick at UNC had to already get one because there were ideas and reports that Bill Belichick was already planning his exit from the Tar Heels. We do know that Mike Norvell just got one, and also Wisconsin's coach Luke Fickell has also got one. So we've had 2 massive jobs open up already. James Franklin was shown the door last week. And then yesterday we did see the Billy Napier era, or you may say error, finally come to an end. So what other jobs, like, that would be considered good or big jobs, or at least that when they fire a coach, you could see, okay, you could have a good amount of candidates that are attractive candidates applying for those jobs. I'll give you a few teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'll just tell you if I think they're going to open up or not. Baylor. I don't think Dave Aranda's back after this year. And coming off a bye, they lost. That season has quickly gotten away from them. They have an unbelievable quarterback in Sawyer Robertson. I don't think Dave Aranda is going to be the coach of Baylor next year. If I'm Auburn, I don't know how you justify bringing back Hugh Freeze next year. This guy's not going to win enough games, and his offense constantly fails him in these games. So Baylor and Auburn, I think, will open up. Kentucky, Mark Stoops is a good coach. Mark Stoops has been doing this for a long time. Mark Stoops has had a lot of success at Kentucky. I think, though, it's time to try something new. So I think Kentucky will open up. So Baylor, Auburn, and Kentucky will open up. Florida State. I know each message is different. I know the buyout is massive, $50+ million. I think Florida State's going to look at this and say, okay, Mike Norvell, when did your coaching career at Florida State, when was it basically over? I think it was when he had that great team that some may say got screwed by the College Football Playoff Committee, and he's sitting with this team, and he's basically just having a blank stare on his face because he didn't know what just hit him, the fact that he had an undefeated team and they didn't make the College Football Playoff because of a quarterback injury. Because then you look at it, they were 2 wins last year, and then this year they had that great win up against Alabama. They ended up starting the season at 3-0, and now they've lost 4 straight. They haven't won a game in conference. And you look at Florida just got rid of a coach, and Penn State has got rid of a coach, and Florida State is a big brand. Yesterday's message, from the Florida State AD that will evaluate things at the end of the season, but we're committed to him, that wasn't really an endorsement. That was, we're going to see this through until the end of the year, and at the end of the year, we're going to give Mike Norvell one last chance, right? He better turn it around now. And do I think that team is going to turn it around with how ugly it got last year? And I know there's different players this year. No, I don't think they're going to turn it around. The highlight of their season was beating Alabama. And it's a great win, don't get me wrong. But that can't be the highlight of your season, a week 1 game. So I think Norvell's done at the end of the year. I don't think Luke Fickell's going to work at Wisconsin, which is really stunning because when that hire was made, you basically said, hey, Luke Fickell got it going with Cincinnati and took them to the College Football Playoff. This is going to be a big-time coach. This guy goes to the Big Ten, where he doesn't even need to win a national championship at Wisconsin. They could just be an 8 to 10 win team each and every year, and that was going to be fine. It's not going to work for Luke Fickell. But I think they'll give Luke Fickell another year when they shouldn't. I'm going to say Wisconsin does not open up at the end of the season. Now, UNC and LSU, I think these are the most 2 difficult ones to predict. Nico, do you think Bill Belichick's going to be back next year at UNC? I know what my answer is, but do you think he's going to be back at UNC?
I do not know.
Samter, do you think Bill Belichick is going to be back at UNC?
I do.
I'm actually in agreement with Samter. I think everyone's saying that this isn't going to work. Now, Bubba Cunningham, I don't think wanted to hire Bill Belichick. I think that was a booster decision. The fact that it's a booster decision, I think, helps Bill Belichick more. And I do believe, and they almost beat Cal. Right? That was a crazy game, and it ended in just such horrific fashion. But something just tells me, even though it probably should end after 1 year, that Belichick will be back at UNC next season. Now, LSU with Brian Kelly. I think he should be fired at the end of the season. I don't think he will. I think Brian Kelly will get another season at LSU. So Baylor, I think, will open up. Auburn, I think, will open up. Kentucky, I think, will open up. Florida State, I think, will open up. Wisconsin, I do not. UNC, I do not. LSU, I do not. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a timeout. When we come on back, we'll get into Denver's insane comeback. Are you buying the Broncos? How impressed are you with Jackson Dart, even though he had that crucial interception? And the 49ers, despite all these injuries, all they do is win. We'll get into some NFL happenings. We come on back. Studs and Duds will happen at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. David Waters at 5:20 p.m. Eastern Time from Gators Breakdown. Whole lot more to do. Got an hour and a half left to play. Zach Gelb, Infinity Sports Network, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. You can also follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. Or you can even follow us on TikTok at The Zach Gelb Show. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance, who protects small businesses with affordable coverage options. Quote today at progressivecommercial.com. Game 7 of the American League Championship Series tonight in Toronto, and the Blue Jays have rallied from deficits twice in this series to force the deciding game. The Mariners are trying to advance the World Series for the first time ever, and will have to pick themselves up after blowing a 3-2 series lead and also a 2-0 series lead as well. George Kirby will start the deciding game against Shane Bieber. Hall of Famer Albert Pujols is interviewing with the Padres for their managerial vacancy. He also spoke to his former team, the Angels, but is no longer a candidate there. Florida fired Billy Napier over the weekend, but Mike Norvell's status at Florida State won't be determined until after the season. The Seminoles currently mired in a 4-game skid following a 3-0 start. Falcons quarterback Michael Penix is dealing with a bone bruise in his foot. He is day-to-day. Jaden Daniels' hamstring injury isn't considered long-term, but his status for next Sunday is uncertain, while defensive end Dorrance Armstrong is done for the year with a knee injury. The Panthers' Bryce Young reportedly has a high ankle sprain and may not play against the Bills next week. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Call the Infinity Sports Network anytime. 888-710-4ISN. That's 888-710-4476.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, this portion of the show is sponsored by Square. More than 4 million neighborhood businesses run on Square. To learn more, go to square.com or just stop by your favorite local business. See you in the neighborhood, Square. The first of 2 Monday night games tonight feature Baker Mayfield and the Bucs traveling up north to face Jared Goff and the Lions. Detroit is currently the favorite at -6. The action kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Just a quick disclaimer. There's too many international games. All right, I'm not a huge fan of these 9:30 a.m. games. You want to give me one or two a season, fine. Like one each and every week is just a bit too much. And the other thing is, this late in the season, I don't like all these Monday night doubleheaders. We had 2 Monday night games last week. You got 2 more this week. Do we really need 2 games on Monday night? So you got Buccaneers and Lions. Obviously, that's a game people are going to watch. It starts at 7 p.m. Eastern time. How many people, though, are staying up for Texans and Seahawks? And I get it, right? If you're a Texans fan, the game starts you at 9. If you're a Seahawks fan, the game starts for you at 7. But on the East Coast, who's staying up at 10 p.m. Eastern time, besides myself because I have to for my job? But the regular person on the East Coast, who is watching that at 10 p.m. Eastern time tonight with the Texans and the Seahawks? It's too much. I love football. We don't need games at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time almost each and every week for this London experience. And we do not, or Dublin or, wherever they play the game, Mars, Brazil, and we do not need 2 Monday Night Football games this late in the season. I haven't even looked at it. And was the other day the last international game? Because I don't think there's an international game next week. Let's see, week 9, do we have a 9:30 start time? I don't think we do.
I believe there's still more.
But maybe they take a little bit of a break here. Oh, yeah. 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, Falcons and Colts in week 10. November 16, Commanders and Dolphins. That's in Spain. So you got Germany and Spain in week 10 and 11. Week 12, nothing. Let's see. Week 13, you got obviously Thanksgiving. Then you got the Black Friday game. Then on Sunday, there's no 9:30. Week 14, no 9:30 game. Week 15.
I think week 12 is the last week, or week 11, yeah. Because once they get late in the season, they're not going to have teams travel
Well, you
overseas.
never know. They may play the Super Bowl one day in London.
I mean, Roger Goodell has said that he wouldn't mind having every single team play a game overseas or internationally every year.
It's too much.
So that'd be 16 international games a year.
And let me ask you this. Now, I'm up. I'm watching the football. I'm up. I'm doing the show, so I'm plugged in. And I understand Jaguars and Rams wasn't anything special to write home about. But do you think the average man or the average woman, when they've been programmed, right, football on Sunday starts at 1 p.m. Eastern time, do you think they're going out of their way to wake up to watch a 9:30 a.m. Eastern time game? Do you, Nico?
I don't know, but even yesterday, think of if you're a Rams fan, they had to wake up at 6:30 in the morning to watch their favorite team play. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And I know sometimes you get, East Coast people, we get very snobbish, and it's like, oh, what about us? For example, when people complain about the start time of these national championships, all right, you got to do a time that works for everybody, and you can't just totally ignore the West Coast. I'm totally cognizant of that. But with that being said, the London games or the international games and 2 Monday night, it's ridiculous. You want to give me a Friday night game to start the season. You want to give me a Black Friday game. You want to play on Christmas Day. You want to play on Thanksgiving Day. That's fine. 2 Monday night games tonight? Just do one. But hey, I'm basically fighting with air right now. And I'm punching into air because the NFL could do whatever they want. We know what happens. The NFL ends up getting tremendous ratings. The NFL ends up being awesome. And you end up watching all the games. Because the NFL has us by the cojones. And you know what? The NFL hasn't even been awesome. We've had some awesome games. But would you agree with this statement this year? I'm curious what your thoughts are, Samter and Nico. I'll start with you, Samter. The college has been better than the NFL in terms of quality of football, in my opinion, this year. Your thoughts?
I think college has been better than the NFL for quite a long time. It's interesting when on a Sunday, when you're sitting there for the 1 o'clock and the 4 o'clock games.
The 1 o'clock window the last 2 weeks has been terrible.
Well, so for me, when I'm watching the 1 o'clock and the 4 o'clock, I can't just sit there and watch one game. I'm flipping between game after game after game, going back and forth. Red Zone channel or NFL Sunday Ticket, and just watching multiple games at once. Monday night games, Thursday night games, Sunday night games, where you're sitting there watching one game solo, just sitting there. It's boring. I can't do it. There's too much inaction, right? It's a 40-second play clock, and each play lasts like 9 seconds long, right? In a 60-minute football game, you get 13 minutes of actual football being played, and it lasts for 3 hours. So 3 hours, you're sitting there watching a game, and you're actually getting 13 minutes of football. It's boring as hell. College is so much more interesting.
Now, college does take a while of the game, but the atmosphere in college, I just think, is different.
And you get more action. There's just more happening.
Nico?
Yeah, I agree that college is definitely better. I've always thought that on a personal level, at least, the reason why I've been so much more into college because the team I root for is actually good.
Oh, okay.
But just in terms of like the sport, like you mentioned, the atmosphere. Like I was watching Alabama, Tennessee the other night. There is not a single NFL atmosphere that comes close to what we saw in Tuscaloosa Saturday night.
So I'm going to take a little bit both from both your answers. And I'm in agreement. I think the college has been better than the NFL. One reason, and just one example when you look at it, I was working the Cowboys-Commanders game. That was the longest first quarter ever, and there was all this scoring, but it just felt long. When I was watching the first half of Ole Miss and Georgia with all the back-and-forth scoring, it didn't feel as long. So I don't know why that is. But then also, I think a big thing because of it is, yes, college football is now a professional sport, but there's no CBA. There's really not as many rules and regulations. Where in the NFL, they tell you can't do this in the offseason. You can't do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. There's not a great preparation process for the season. In college, there is a very good preparation process for the season. So I'm not saying you don't see sloppy college football. You see sloppy football any week you watch it. It's just the nature of the game. But in the NFL, we used to say, the first 4 weeks are a continuation of the preseason. Now I think we start to say the first 7 or 8 weeks is a continuation of the preseason. Where in college, you're more ready to go out of the gate because of the fact there's so much more of a build-up and a ramp-up period for the start of that season. Yes, Samter?
And as you bring up the season and the regular season.
Did someone get fired?
Say it again?
Did someone get fired?
No.
I thought you were going to breaking news. You're like, as you bring that, I thought you were transitioning to Mike McDaniel has been fired as the coach of the Dolphins. That's what I thought you were about to say.
No, Michael Samter has taken over as the coach of the Dolphins. No. To your point about the regular season, and I know you're going to hate this, college football, I think, has been better than the NFL for a long time. The expanded playoffs have made it 1,000 times better. So much more interesting.
I don't think that's why.
No. They were better before the expanded playoffs, but now it's even more better, if that makes sense.
So I'm not dismissing what you're saying. I don't think that is the reason. And it's going to be weird saying how great college football is with what I'm about to say. I acknowledge that. There's no great team in college football. Like, if you think about it.
Ohio State, you can say, is great.
But who have they played? I think Ohio State's the best team in the country. When Pollock was on with us, and you could see my Take 5 Wednesday ratings, I have Ohio State in at 1. But Ohio State really hasn't played anyone this year yet. So I know people are easier to use the word great, and Ohio State may end up being a great team. And Tate's unbelievable, and Jeremiah Smith's unbelievable. Their defense is great, led by Caleb Downs and Matt Patricia, and Julian Sands done a good job. But there used to be teams in college football that you would look at and you would say, it's inevitable, right? When the Gators had Urban Meyer, when Alabama had Nick Saban, right? There are great, and I mean there were immovable pieces in college where now a lot of those people out of the sport, Urban Meyer, right, doing work for Fox, Nick Saban worked for ESPN, and now college football in the last 2 to 3 seasons has been more open than it ever is. Now, you could look at the NFL. The NFL's wide open right now. Right? Like, right now, you can't tell me who's going to the Super Bowl from the AFC and the NFC. But with that being said, who's been to the Super Bowl the last 3 years in the AFC? It's the Chiefs. Who dominated the NFL for 20 years? The Pats. So, the NFL, even though this feels as if this is an open season, in the last 20 years, there's not been that many years where the NFL has actually been open. In college, it used to be the same way where it wasn't really that open. And, right, you look at, to your point, Sam, to the 14 playoff, it was so tough to get in. Now there's more access to the playoff, but I think the overall structure, even if we were still at 4 teams that would get in, I still do believe that it would be very open because I don't think there are that many great teams in the sport. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Let's go to Rob in Connecticut. Robbie, what's happening?
Zach, you already know, but guess what? I'm not in Connecticut. I'm down here at the Outer Banks in North Carolina fishing in the Super Bowl of all tournaments that I qualified for in the Nationals for the blind. I'm fishing in a 2-day tournament. I qualified and
Wow.
wish me luck.
Well,
So I wasn't able
congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you.
We hope you win. If you win and you have to give a victory speech, we expect a shout-out.
Hey, you know I'm going to call you up, but I got a friend here that's big into football, and he keeps asking me about the games tonight. And I said, I know the perfect person to ask, and that would be Zach Gelb. So, what are your thoughts on the Detroit-Tampa Bay game tonight? Do you feel that they will cover Detroit? Yes or no?
6.5 is the spread. I really want to say Tampa Bay, but I hate betting against Baker Mayfield. I'm going to lay the number on the 6.5 with Detroit.
All right. So you're going to go with Detroit taking it? Or
Yeah.
no?
Yeah, I'm going
All right.
to lay the 6.5. So I think Detroit's going to win by a touchdown.
Okay, and then the second game, which shouldn't, like, I agree with you, this two games for Monday night, yeah, no, I don't like it. But Seattle, I told them Seattle.
Yeah, I'm going Seattle too. I'm taking both favorites. I know it sounds lame, and thanks for the phone call, Robin. Good luck in the competition, but I'm going to go Seattle laying 3.5 tonight as well. If you ask me which game, if I could only bet one, which one I would bet, I would be more inclined to bet Seattle laying 3.5 than Detroit. Detroit, Tampa, I'm staying away. You ask me my opinion, so I'll give you it, but I'll stay away from actually betting on that game in terms of the spread. But Texans and Seahawks, I don't trust Stroud in a big spot, and I like the way that Seahawks team has been playing, so I'll take them laying 3.5. Let's go to Terry in Indianapolis next up on the Infinity Sports Network. Terry, what's happening?
Hey, Zach, how you doing today? I love your show, by the way.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're one of my faves. I like you. I like Maggie and Perloff. I'm trying to figure out how Maggie don't reach over and slap Perloff. That's okay.
I think we're all trying to figure that out.
But anyway, I'm with you. I hate the international games. I'm okay with one, maybe two. We don't need 20 of them. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of hearing the NFL say, "Oh, we care about player safety." Okay, then why are you having 18 games next year?
Sure.
You don't care about all that. Goodell's just all money. That's all he cares about. But I'm tired of having all these games on streaming services and stuff. But anyway, I looked at the Big Ten. I'm an SEC guy. I'm a UK fan. Yeah, Mark Stoops is probably gone at the end of the season. He's done great for our program. But I don't think the Big Ten is as strong this year as it was last year. I know Ohio State's good. I know Indiana's good. But after that, it's kind of, whoever.
It's top heavy. The SEC is deeper. It's more well-rounded from top to bottom. The Big Ten this year, though, they could still win the national championship because Ohio State's going to be tough to beat. Indiana's going to be tough to beat, and I'm still not going to dismiss Oregon. But after that, I don't think there's another team in the Big Ten that could win a national championship. That's why I'm hoping, Terry, and I really appreciate the kind words. I'm up against the break, so I'm going to have to let you run. But I'm hoping that we see the best of the SEC up against the best of the Big Ten in the national championship. When that national championship game is played in January, and it's in Florida this year at Hard Rock Stadium, I think that's what it's still called, where the Dolphins play, I want to see Big Ten against SEC, whoever the best team is in the Big Ten at that point, going up against the best team in the SEC. I would love to see that. But it's not a guarantee for that to be the case. You could get two Big Ten teams in the national championship game. You get two SEC teams in the national championship game. I don't think a team from the ACC is getting a national championship game. I don't think a team from the Big 12, Samter, is getting to the national championship game this year. We'll do studs and duds on the other side. David Waters going to join us coming up 25 minutes from now from Gators Breakdown. Whole lot more to do. One more hour to play. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
You can get at me on Twitter at Zach Gelb. You could also follow INF Sportsnet And when you do so, you could see a poll question that's up there that we just put up there. Do you prefer the NFL or college football? If you had to pick one and one only, right now college football leads the way with 73% of the votes, but that is early. David Waters is going to join us from Gators Breakdown to talk about Billy Napier getting fired and who could be next up for the Gators. That comes your way 20 minutes from now. But first, it is a Monday, and let's get to some studs and duds.
On the Zach Gelb Show, we're looking for studs.
Back to pass. Bosa picked up. Deep shot. Jefferson. Yes!
But sometimes we have to tolerate the duds.
Mistake. Lamar takes the snap. Rolls to the right. Throws. Complete. No! He dropped it. Mark Andrews hit him in the head.
Now for the moment you've all been waiting for.
And here we go.
It's time for Studs and Duds.
I thought Notre Dame was going to beat USC. They ended up doing so, but it was back and forth early. And then in the third quarter, when Will Pauling had that touchdown grab of 6 yards from C.J. Carr and made it 21-13, I said, okay, this is when Notre Dame's going to start to pull away. Well, they didn't. USC had a field goal. Then USC had a 59-yard touchdown pass. And the next thing you know, USC was up by 3. But Trojans fans could only enjoy that for a few seconds because a guest of the show, someone that's been on with us just a few weeks ago, Jadarian Price, had another 100-yard kickoff return.
Lane has gotten his team back up by a field goal. This one will be taken out a yard in. Price gets away from one, across the 20, finds a crease. Jadarian Price. He has done this before. Price extends away. Touchdown Notre Dame. Jadarian to Jahouse.
So Jadarian Price at 13 carries, 87 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. Jeremiah Love at 24 carries, 228 rushing yards, and a touchdown. But Jadarian Price gets the stud tag because he gave Notre Dame the lead. They didn't look back after that with that 100-yard kickoff return.
Stud.
All right, how about a Big Ten quarterback who right now, in my eyes, is the Heisman frontrunner? That is Fernando Mendoza. They went up against Michigan State, did Mendoza and Indiana, 38-13. It had nothing to do with Michigan State because they're not a very good program right now, but it was the idea of after the Oregon win, would there be a letdown? Oregon.
No, it's not tomato. It is not. Trust me, I've been to Oregon. You say Oregon there, they'll say, get gone out of our state. All right? It's Oregon.
After the Oregon win for Indiana, I was curious to see if there would be a letdown. There certainly wasn't. Mendoza with 4 touchdowns, including this one to put the game away.
Right side of Mendoza in the backfield. Here's the snap. And Fernando fires this one to the end zone, and it is caught! Another tremendous grab for a touchdown by Elijah Surratt!
Stud.
Samter?
Now, I wanted to go with this guy as my stud. Curry College's Monty Quinn, who broke the NCAA record for rushing in a game, 522 yards and 7 touchdowns, 20 carries. He had 5 carries over 50 yards, 2 over 80 yards, and didn't even play in the last 3 series of the game. However, because it was a Division III game, I couldn't find any highlights. So I had to scrap that and say, screw you, Monty Quinn. I'll go with my guy, Forks Up.
Monty Python or Monty Quinn?
Did I say Monty Python?
No. I was just making a joke.
I'm going to go with my guy, Jordan Tyson, Arizona State wide receiver. He is top 5 in the country in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. He had 10 catches for 105 yards. Including a touchdown earlier in the game. And on 4th down late in the game, on the final drive, Sam Levitt had to scramble away from an intense pass rush. And Jordan Tyson made the most brilliant NFL-style change to his route, where he was going to an out route, and he just stopped on a dime, went up because he saw his quarterback in trouble, and this is what it sounded like.
3rd down and goal. Levitt, wide open, Tyson. Arizona State cashes in with Tyson back in there on a fake. Arizona State on a 4th and 2 to decide the ball game right here. Levitt on the move. Levitt throws. It's caught by Tyson in open space. Tyson reverses inside the 25.
Stud.
All righty, let's go to London. 35-7 was the final for the Rams all over the Jaguars. If I just told you Matthew Stafford was 21-33, for 182 yards, you'd say, Zach, that's not NFL stud numbers. Only had 5 touchdown passes. So that's why he's my NFL stud. Let's listen up to that 5th TD, and it was the 3rd to Davante Adams in the contest.
First and goal at the 1. Stafford throwing to the right side again, looking for Adams. Jump ball! He's got another one! Davante Adams with his 3rd touchdown of the game! And the Rams are pouring it on the Jaguars at Wembley. It's 34-7. Stafford one-on-one, Davante Adams. And it's his 3rd touchdown, tying his career best for the future Hall of Famer.
Stud.
All right, how about Dak Prescott, Cowboys quarterback? He has had such an underrated season, in my opinion. I feel like no one, surprisingly, because feels like we always talk about the Cowboys. This year, though, no one talking about what Dak Prescott has done. He just got his buddy C.D. Lamb back yesterday, and they connected for a big-time score and a big-time win over the Commanders.
First down, Prescott back. Look at this protection. Deep ball to the middle to Lamb. 35 broke away. Left side 20. Walk your dog. Right on in. Welcome back, C.D. Lamb. 74 yards. Touchdown, Cowboys.
Stud.
I mean, it's too bad Hickey's not here because I'm going with his guy, Jonathan Taylor. The culture rolling. Their offense is unstoppable. Jonathan Taylor is cementing his name. We heard Shane Steichen earlier call him the best running back in the NFL right now.
At first, I'm not going to lie. I go, why is Hickey's guy Jonathan Taylor? He didn't go to Penn State, and then I realized, oh, you're talking about the Colts.
Yes, we're in the NFL right now. Wake up. But Jonathan Taylor, 16 carries, 94 yards, multiple games this year where he had 3 touchdowns. Like I said, Shane Steichen called him the best running back in the game, and this is what the final touchdown sounded like.
High snap for Jones, but he pulls it down, gets it to Taylor, marching to his right. He's at the 5, touchdown! The trifecta again for Jonathan Taylor. 3 rushing touchdowns for the greatest running back going right now. It's 37-17 Colts over Bolts.
Stud.
All righty, let me take you to the swamp. It was Billy Napier's final game. He got a victory, but it's a 2-point game. 2-point game. I'm not great at math. All you need is a field goal. And Mississippi State is driving the ball down the field. They get inside the 30-yard line of Florida, so they're in field goal range. They can kick a game-winning field goal. And the longtime quarterback in college football, I feel like he's been around for 4,000 years. He makes Perry Ellis look like Perry Ellis was barely in college. That is Blake Shapen, and he had this costly interception.
There's a snap. Gators bringing some pressure. It's picked off. Mekhi Baroud just saved the day for the Gators. Boy, would it look like Mississippi State had an opportunity. The Gator defense comes up big. You can see the reaction from DJ Lagway. Take a deep breath. Oh, my goodness.
Dud.
And not only that, I'm just watching the play again. When he throws the interception, he threw it to a fat guy. You didn't even throw it to a defensive back. And I can say that. You threw it to a fat guy, a defensive lineman. Ay, ay, ay. All righty, Nico, what do we got?
I'm going back to the Big Ten, and for me, it's Matt Rule. All the conversation the last week about him possibly being rumored to go to Penn State and get that head coaching job. You can't follow it up by losing to Minnesota after they finally got back in the top 25. They were ranked 25th, now obviously unranked after such a bad loss in a game that they got dominated from start to finish, and this was what Rule had to say after the loss.
I don't know what to say to you guys other than it wasn't good enough. I mean, I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off at the coaches. I'm pissed off at myself. I'm mad. So, yeah, I don't know how to say it any other way other than that.
Dud.
Samter?
All right, so I'm going to go with the most obvious dud. I know it was Friday night, but Carson Beck, he was one of the, if not the Heisman favorite to go along with Fernando Mendoza. He was awful in that game against Louisville. They lost by 3. Just to show you how close that game could have been, he had 4 touchdown passes last week against Florida State, but no touchdown passes and 4 picks, including this ugly one, which he blamed on the receiver after the game.
Beck waits for the ball. He is going to throw it. Gets it out. Oh, intercepted! Intercepted! Capers picked it off. The 4th fourth interception thrown by Carson Beck.
Dud.
Now, it was the receiver's fault, but when you throw 4 interceptions and you're a quarterback, you may not want to say that to the media. That would just be a piece of advice. All righty, let me get to my NFL dud. I'm very happy that my Patriots are 5-2. I do like Cam Ward. He was 25 of 34 for 255 yards, a touchdown and an interception. But he had this fumble that was a terrible, and I mean a terrible fumble, and it went for 6 and helped my Patriots get a victory. This is what it sounded like.
Ward under center, turns, play fakes, rolls into pressure, and Chason picks up the ball with a flag thrown on the play. Chason has it running into the end zone as Cam Ward off the play fake, rolling backward in big trouble immediately. The Patriots are celebrating in the end zone as Caleb Chason able to take the football in for a score.
Dud.
I feel bad for Bob Sosio, I know well. He's making the call. I love when Zolak screams, but Zolak stepping all over him, and then Sosi finally gets to speak, and then the official had to clarify the penalty. Sosi couldn't get a word in. He's the play-by-play guy. Oh, my God. All righty, Nico. You know what people say in the YouTube chat, by the way?
What are they saying?
They think you look like Perloff's son.
Really?
Yeah, so Samter sounds like Scarpacci today with that voice, that scratchy voice. And people are saying you look like Andrew Perloff. Take that as a compliment or a diss?
I see it.
The glasses, that's about it.
Well, Perloff's not going to like where I'm going here because I'm picking...
Well, real quickly, Nico's also a lot cooler. A lot cooler than Perloff.
No, well, I'm not gonna say all that.
Do you know how Nico met his girlfriend, by the way, Samter?
I do not.
How would you think, right? How old are you?
26.
26-year-old. What's the most logical thing for someone to meet a 26-year-old? What would you think?
A library.
No, come on. Don't be a jackass.
A dating profile or a bar.
Right? A dating app online. Nico was at a bar, just casually bumped into this girl that he thought was attractive. He was like, oh, my bad. Can I buy you a drink? They've been dating for what, 4 years?
4 years now, yeah.
How about that? You know what? Give a stud to Nico. Come on, give us a sounder.
That's the Rizmaster right there.
Give us the sounder. Now you're a dud. Where's the stud sounder? Just give us a stud. All you have to do is just play stud. Oh, man.
Stud.
That was terrible. Here I am hyping you up.
Hit the dud again.
Yeah, you were better.
Dud.
You were better with your lady. You didn't fumble there, but you fumbled on the show. Ooh, that's bad luck. All right, give me your NFL dud.
All right, I'm going with Carson Wentz, Vikings quarterback. A rough day for him. 2 interceptions, including a brutal pick 6 that when you look back, the Vikings lost by 6 points. If you don't throw this interception, maybe the Vikings win, and the Eagles instead come out victorious.
Wentz takes the snap. He's looking. He's hit as he throws. It's intercepted. It's picked off. Running with the football down the sideline is Jalen Hunt for a touchdown.
Dud.
Samter?
All right, I was going to go with the Giants kicker, Jude Mkatatamada. I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to go with him because I couldn't say his name. But he missed 2 extra points and forced the Giants to do a 2-point conversion earlier in the game to catch up. So that was 3 points left on the board because he couldn't kick and obviously led to the Broncos win. But I'm going to go with Tua. Tua has 6 interceptions the last 2 weeks with just 1 touchdown. They've lost 6 of 7.
Isn't it just Jude McAdamy?
There's an M and a C and an uppercase A with a T and an M and an N together. I don't even know.
It looked weird on the uniform. How would you say that, Nico?
I was pretty sure it was McAdamy, yeah.
Yeah, Jude McAdamy.
There you go, that guy. Well, luckily I couldn't say his name, otherwise he would have been my dud today. But I can say Tua Tagovailoa.
Turn the ball over.
And after the game yesterday, now we know Tua is not going to get benched. Mike McDaniel did say that he's going to start, but this was after the game.
Mike McDaniel probably said, Tua is our guy. Practice will do that, and then Tua computer loading, will play.
He did say not to throw 10 interceptions next game, but this is what he said right after the game when he was a lot less open about Tua's future.
Before watching the tape, I don't want to over conclude anything. I think, but like you turn the ball over, it's the number one indicator of wins and losses, and it negatively affects the team. I know at least 1 to 2 of them were extremely preventable from Tua, and he knows that. It just wasn't good enough. So we'll watch the tape and change our style of play if we have to. We'll do everything's on the table.
Dud. So there you go, studs and duds. Pine Needle in the chat. Is that Perloff's son while talking about Nico? Dan from Canada, Perloff Jr., LOL. Jake from Boise. When I first turned you on today, I thought you had Perloff on the show. Imagine we just put Perloff behind the glass and just made him run the board. That's the guy that hosts our morning show here on the network. All right, Billy Napier was the worst kept secret ever. Is now out at Florida. Who can replace him? We will tap into Gators country with David Waters. Is a great job, Gators breakdown, covering the team when we come on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, the worst kept secret in the country entering this college football weekend was once the weekend did conclude, Billy Napier would be out of a job at Florida. That news did become official yesterday. We will now tap into why the Billy Napier era was so horrible for Florida and where the Gators will go next. Let's welcome in one of the best writers in the country and one of the best reporters in the country. Breaking down everything Gators breakdown is David Waters, and he's kind enough to join us right now. David, appreciate the time. How are you?
Good. Busy. I mean, the moniker of Gators Breakdown is there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation, but there are levels to it, and it is certainly pretty high right now.
Ultimately, if you had to look back at the Billy Napier tenure, where he was able to get talent, right, get a lot of players in, but didn't get the results on the field, why did it ultimately not work for Billy Napier down in the swamp?
Yeah, the first angle a lot of people will look at this is just not giving up the offensive coordinator duties as the head coach. And look, college football changed when Billy Napier was hired at Florida, no doubt about it. But he still wanted to do it his way. And look, I don't blame coaches to begin with in the tenure if you want to do it your way. That's what got you there. He was a play caller at Louisiana. Okay, you want to be the play caller at Florida? Fine. But as soon as it's kind of apparent that it's not going to work, don't be so, don't be so adamant about sticking with something that doesn't work. And he was just adamant that it was the best pulse of, the way he could keep the pulse of the team. He thought it was the best way that he saw Florida moving forward in offense, no matter what had happened. And it wasn't just, the offense wasn't terrible under Billy Napier at times under Florida, but there was another step to it, and it seems like there was just a lot of responsibilities on game day and outside of game day when you're that kind of head coach. So on game day, yeah, you're the play caller, but then Florida would have a penalty here, a penalty there, a timeout issue here, timeout issue there. And it was just the game management really, really, hamstrung Florida a lot. And would that have been cleaner if he wasn't so worried about calling plays? And like I said, just going to the offense had another step to it. It was a very, very inconsistent offense. So that is the main reason. And Scott Strickland, the athletic director, even said it too. There were many conversations about that aspect of Billy Napier. He even come out and said it today, and pretty much ultimately why he's no longer with us.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because everyone says Billy Napier is a nice guy, but how a nice guy could be that stubborn at the end of the day. It's really ironic. Now, you mentioned Scott Strickland, and this is another comment I see from Florida fans, and I can't really fault them. All right, you get rid of Napier, but why should he be able to choose the next head coach? Do you agree with the decision of letting Scott Strickland pick the next head coach for the Florida Gators?
I mean, publicly, he's going to say he's the lead guy. I think there's going to be a lot of conversation with Board of Trustee members, with big boosters who probably think they have a say and all this. Will he have final say? Yeah. But I think there's going to be a lot of
hand guiding
pushing toward. Yeah. Pushing towards, okay, this is kind of how we want it to happen. This is what we want it to look like. And look, it's really not a big surprise. I know we'll get into it. If it is Lane Kiffin and he's the top guy, I mean, look, that's not hard to figure out. I mean, if you're Scott Strickland, yeah, that's the guy. If you're a big booster, yeah, that's the guy. But if it gets past Lane Kiffin, Then where does it go? Where does it splinter? Who does Scott Strickland prefer? Who does this booster prefer? And I think that's where the conversation is going to go, in the tug and the pull and all that goes into coaching searches. So at the very top, it's pretty easy. And Scott Strickland's going to get a lot of credit. But beyond that, then it starts getting, I think, pretty hairy.
What is the expectation, not in terms of coaching, just the standard from Florida fans about what their team should look like? I know, right, Spurrier and Urban Meyer, it means, hey, go win national championships. But I don't think that's realistic for Florida right now. And I think they need to be good again before they could be great. But from the Florida fan, you're in the swamp and you cover and you talk to those fans, what do they think their football team should be right now?
When you look at Florida, I mean, and you bring up Steve Spurrier, you bring up Urban Meyer, but go back to Steve Spurrier, and then, like almost right before Steve Spurrier, there was this very popular Bear Bryant quote that, hey, Florida's a sleeping giant. Okay. It took a trendsetter like Steve Spurrier to come in, and he's in the SEC, and it's 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and she's like, you know what? We're going to drop our quarterback back 35, 40 times a game, and we're going to launch the ball down the field. We're going to change something. And I think that opened up Gator fans' eyes of like and the population boom in the state and just the timing of it all. The type of athletes that you can get up Florida, it is speed, it is speed, it is speed. And where Florida has failed outside of Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer is trying to copy the Bama blueprint. No matter who you were bringing in, you were trying to copy the Bama blueprint. Well, Florida had their own blueprint they should have been following, not trying to copy Nick Saban, not trying to copy Alabama. That's where Florida really hurt themselves. You don't have Florida offensive line, high school, not very good. But you have a lot of speed. You have speed at DB. You have speed at wide receiver. You have skill player speed that you should be recruiting towards, and that's where I think Florida has to find itself. No matter who the head coach is, find yourself getting the type of athletes that you can get in your state and go from there. So I think you found two guys that were able to do it better than most with Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. That to me is the unlocking of what Gator fans want and when Florida has been at its best.
David Waters here with us. Does a great job covering the Gators for Gators Breakdown. All right, Lane Kiffin. I had these same conversations last year. Everyone's like, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin. They retained Billy Napier. I knew that the name was going to happen. It's been happening all year. Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin. I personally don't believe Lane Kiffin's leaving Ole Miss for Florida. Where do you stand on that? And what do you think the percentage is when the Gators name their new head football coach that it will be Lane Kiffin?
I'm north of 50%. I'm like 70% there. Where the hang-up is that if this had happened a year ago, it would have been even higher. I think Lane Kiffin would have left Ole Miss for Florida. Did Florida miss their window? Did winning last year at Ole Miss, more winning this year at Ole Miss, kind of cement him there in Oxford, where he's now even realizing even more that, hey, I can win here. The wins are piling up. I can win here. But, there's been connections to Florida. I mean, grew up in the state of Florida with his dad, of course, was Monty Kiffin and coaching at Tampa Bay. So you had that connection. And then his wife, John Reeves is her dad, former Gator. There's a connection there. Apparently the family likes the state of Florida and Gainesville. So there's some connections that could pull Lane Kiffin there. And he's even come out and said it, Steve Spurrier is one of, an idol of his growing up. So there's some things that could pull him there to Florida, but you do wonder if Ole Miss keeps winning. Does a playoff run, a deep playoff run come into the timing of it all? Does that come into play as well? Or like I said, just the wins keep piling up, and he has this realization that says, well, this new world of college football, the landscape has changed so much, and I can win here as much as I can win anywhere else. I'm safe here. Florida is a pressure cooker. I will fully admit that. He's got it, I won't say easy at Ole Miss, but he'll have it easier at Ole Miss than he would at Florida. That would be a lot to leave.
Yeah, that's why I don't think he's going to leave. Like, if we were talking 5 years ago, and you said, hey, the coach at Ole Miss is going to reject Florida, I'd say you're crazy, right? If you would have told me that Kurt Cignetti would reject Penn State, Indiana, I'd say you're crazy. But in this new structure, I don't see why you would leave Ole Miss for Florida. That's just me.
I still going back to the previous comment we were talking about. I still think there's a recruiting base that sets you up nice for Florida. He's figured it out, and he's has to use the transfer portal at Ole Miss to compete at this level that he's competing at the last couple of years. It is you can't recruit to state of Mississippi and think you're going to be well enough to go compete. Well, you got to figure out a new way. In this new landscape of college football, he's figured out that way. And that transfer portal opens up this possibility. So at Florida, I think you go about it a little bit different. You can recruit the state of Florida really, really well, and then you can kind of cherry pick in the portal and to come up for some deficiencies that you may have in your roster. So I do wonder, still in this landscape, with schools like Ole Miss compared to Florida, I still think Florida could be more consistent. Like Ole Miss, they went all in last year. They didn't go all in this year. Is that because they can only handpick a few years that they can do that, or just that's where it would come to me in trying to figure that out. At Florida, I do think money wise, there's probably still more overall there in the landscape, NIL, and just in the state of Florida itself, outside of rev share, where it's kind of equal for everybody. I do think there's a little more opportunities in the state of Florida with the population in the state of Florida. There's some more opportunities there, so I do think there are things that Florida would be a plus at the same time.
David Waters here with us. If it is not Lane Kiffin, who's the first name that you then think of? I think of James Franklin, who could be a guy that could stabilize the program, even though I don't believe he's the guy you win a national championship with.
His name would be on the list. I don't know if he'll be the next. I think the next, and I don't know how likely it would be, but I think Florida would say, hey, you got to tell us no first. Now, be Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. Would that be another angle of Brian Kelly going to an SEC school, and here you are with Marcus Freeman leaving Notre Dame to go to an SEC school? I think that's where Florida would turn next.
Gotcha.
And I don't know the interest level if he'd accept that.
Yeah, I don't think that's real. You call, right? If you see Beyonce on the street, you say, hey, will you go on a date with me? You make her say no. I think Marcus Freeman would say no. So realistically, if it's not Lane, who do you then think they turn to?
Maybe Brent Key, Georgia Tech, Jeff Brom, Louisville, but then at that time you're messing with two guys who are out there alma maters. So does that make the situation a little hairy? James Franklin mentioned no buyout. He's a fired coach, and that maybe makes it attractive. Those are I think some of the names. I'm a big Kenny Dillingham fan at Arizona State. Once again,
alma mater,
alma mater, a lot of connections there. So you start seeing where it can get a little hairy for Florida, but I think that's what the list would look like. And if it's not there, does Florida have to go G4 route again and bring up an Alex Goller from USF or Summerall from Tulane? That's just kind of the angle of what we're looking at here.
Wrap it up with David Waters. With the fan reaction, I would imagine, and hey, you could get rid of a G5 guy and then hire another guy. Would the fan reaction be, hey, that just didn't work out, even though Golish beat us this year, even though every coach says John Summerall is going to be an SEC coach one day? I would assume that's not the preference of the Gator fan right now.
It absolutely. You're hitting it right on the head. I mean, look, with Summerall, the reputation for him, yeah, he's going to be an SEC coach someday. It was kind of the same thing with Billy Napier. Mm-hmm. It was, go interview at South Carolina, go interview at Auburn. Okay, you didn't hear what you like. You're going to stay. You finally heard what you like, and now you're going to Florida. Kind of the same thing. So, yeah, that's why it would rub the fan base wrong. Those guys could be really good. I do think John Summerall is going to be a really good SEC coach one day. Can Florida afford to take that risk? I think was where the fan base is at there. So for a lot of the fan base, obviously, everybody's on social media now. It is Lane or bust for so many fans, and there'd be so much support behind it if he was the guy.
I obviously understand why the Gator fan wants Lane Kiffin. I don't think they're going to get him. That's just me, though. I do think, though, they could get an SEC coach, and I think Penn State could be interested in this guy, too. And I believe this guy's personality would fit both of those fan bases and kind of mirror image them. What about Eli Drinkwitz leaving Missouri for the Swamp?
Yeah, I should not have left his name off. He'll probably would be very high on the list as well. Maybe third or fourth on the list behind Lane and Freeman, and he gets the call. And certainly the offensive background, some of the reputation of a dorky personality, even though he's aggressive with it. So I think that's where that comes up for him. But what's been good about him is you cannot question his coordinator hires. And when he had to make them, unlike Billy Napier, he saw a problem as a play caller, head coach. You know what? I'm going to go get Kirby Moore. and where our offense is going to take another step. Blake Baker, very good defensive coordinator, now a defensive coordinator at LSU, and turned that defense around. So if you're looking for somebody who can adjust and adapt and hire good coordinators, Eli Drinkwitz checks a lot of boxes there.
You know, it's funny because you talked about names that I'll agree with in Brent Key and Kenny Dillingham, right? And they're at their current school. You even said a Jeff Brom. What about a guy like Jed Fish? I keep on seeing his name out there. I don't think I'm jumping for joy if I was a Gator fan if they hired him, although he's a good coach. But is that a name that people are pushing in Gator circles?
Not much. Not much. Of course, you got the GA under Spurrier connection there. So there's a Florida connection there with Jed Fish. You'd get way down the list before you got to Jed Fish. And he's done a good job, turning around Arizona, getting the Washington job. The reputation of jumping around a lot is what kind of stands out with Jed Fish. And it's like, well, I mean, if you're continuing to move up, there's nothing wrong with jumping around a lot. That's how I've always seen it. So that wouldn't be a marker against him in my eyes. But I certainly, with the little bit of Florida connection, his name does get brought up.
I will give you the Zach Gelb hot take question, which is just made for social media here. People throw out John Gruden. I even saw RG3 today threw out Tim Tebow. How about Tim Tebow and John Gruden for the Gators job?
Absolutely not. John Gruden gets way too much credit for a Super Bowl with Tony Dungy's players and hasn't done, not much outside of that. The Tim Tebow thing sounds like a Facebook group that just wants to have, that doesn't really know what they're talking about there. No, no head coaching experience whatsoever. He wouldn't even want to do it. So it's that's just nah. But you could have fun with it, I guess, but not happening.
So you believe it's going to be Lane? That's what it sounds like. That's what I take from this conversation.
If I had to go to Vegas, if you're making me go to Vegas and I have to place a bet somewhere, that's where my bet would be.
And then who would the bet be if it wasn't Lane?
I'd go Eli second.
Okay.
That would be the bets.
There he is, David Waters, Gators Breakdown, about to cover a coaching search. I feel like this has been a 2-year coaching search, so it's probably nice that you could actually get underway with it.
Yeah, for sure. You hold off on hot boards and hot takes, but no more holding back now. We're fully in. We're fully ready for the ride.
David, appreciate you carving out some time for us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There you go. David Waters did a tremendous job covering the Gators for Gators Breakdown. We'll come on back. We got 2 Monday Night Football games tonight. We'll get into some other NFL happenings as well. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with their easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. The first of those 2 Monday night games features the Lions and Buccaneers in Detroit, and the Bucs have both Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka active for tonight's game. The Seahawks will go for their first win at Lumen Field this season against the Texans, who have won back-to-back games. The Commanders got good news on Jaden Daniels' hamstring, not a long-term issue, but his status for next week right now is not known. The news wasn't as good for Dorrance Armstrong, who is out for the season with an knee injury. The Saints will likely be without center Eric McCoy for the rest of the year, believed to have suffered a torn bicep. Bryce Young could miss Sunday's game against the Bills due to a sprained ankle. Michael Penix has a foot injury, bruised foot. He is listed as day-to-day. Game 7 tonight of the American League Championship Series in Toronto, which looks to take the series after rallying twice to even things up. It'll be Shane Bieber starting against George Kirby in the deciding game. I'm Rich Ackles.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Rock your body. Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God. We're back again.
All right, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Rob in Detroit says, Lions-Bucks tonight. Who has the better shot of coming out of the NFC? You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sports Ed or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I'm going to say right now the better team are the Bucs. How they played so far this season. But I do think the Lions win tonight. Emeka Egbuka, according to Ian Rappaport, is going to play. Mike Evans is going to play. So the Bucs are getting healthier. With that being said, though, I know that the Lions, they lost to the Chiefs, and that was not a good performance. The week prior, though, I did like what I did see out of the Detroit Lions, and I thought that game that the Lions had really, or was a few weeks prior, up against the Ravens was a big statement. You know, them beating Cleveland, them beating Cincinnati doesn't really do much for you. But I do think the Lions bounce back tonight, and I do think they get a victory up against Tampa Bay. But it is tough to bet against Baker Mayfield. I think the Lions, I could envision them going to the Super Bowl more than I can with Tampa Bay. But I'll tell you this, like 3-4 weeks into the season, I said, all right, Tampa Bay, they feel as if they have a ceiling of just getting to an NFC title game. That team could absolutely get to the Super Bowl this year. They make timely turnovers. They create them. Baker Mayfield is playing some of the best football from the quarterback position that we've seen this year. And when they are healthy, and that's a big thing, when they are healthy, they got Bucky Irving, they got Mike Evans, they got Chris Godwin, they got Emeka Egbuka. They got a lot of weapons there. So their defense is more than serviceable, and they got weapons. They could get there. But it's something just about that mentality of the coach and Dan Campbell. And I know Goff isn't a big game quarterback, but at least he's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to another NFC championship game. That defense, Aiden Hutchinson's having a very good return season. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a heck of a player. You know what travels in the playoff seed if you aren't the number one overall seed? And maybe the Lions won't be this year? Run game. And the Lions got a run game in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So I will say the Lions are more likely to get to the Super Bowl this year than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I do like the Lions to win tonight. And then the other game, so Sam Darnold is having a really good season. 11 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, over 1,500 yards. Had a really good season last year. But down the stretch, Sam Darnold, who's with the Minnesota Vikings, didn't beat the Lions. Lost to the playoffs to the LA Rams. And it was such a great season for him. But it ended on a really rotten note where it said, okay, they're seeing ghosts. There is Mono Sam, that he was back at the end in Minnesota. What he's done so far in Seattle, it's special. There's still a big game factor, though, and a big game question, though, when you look and you throw Sam Darnold under the microscope. You look at C.J. Stroud the last 2 years. He's done some good stuff for the Texans. 2 playoff appearances, playoff victory in both seasons. But as the games get bigger, C.J. Stroud starts to fade. So tonight, it's which quarterback is going to make that costly turnover? And I think the pieces right now are better, and the situation and the environment right now is better around Sam Darnold. So I do like the Seahawks, and I like the Seahawks laying 3.5 points. And I think the Seahawks win today, and they win by at least 4. And it's going to be C.J. Stroud who makes the turnover in the big spot. But as the Texans win tonight, that puts them at 3-3. And all of a sudden, you look at the Texans, who started the year at 0-3. They would then beat Tennessee. They then beat the Ravens. And then they beat the Seahawks. And they play the Niners and the Broncos next week. So this game means a lot to the Texans. And it's not going to be easy going into the 12th man at Lumen Field and getting a victory. But if you do, then you're 3-3, and then just split up against 2 very good teams, which you both have at home in the 49ers and the Broncos. So I look at a game like the performance tonight for the Texans. This game means more for the Texans than it does the Seattle Seahawks. But with that being said, it does mean something for the Seahawks, because you look at this NFC West, Niners are already through this week. Rams are already through this week. Niners are 5-2. Rams are 5-2. The Seahawks sit at 4-2. So they lose tonight. They fall to 4-3. They fall behind those guys. And the NFC is a tougher conference this year than the AFC. And it's going to be a logjam if you don't win the division. And you're going to have some good teams that end up missing the postseason. So it's of big importance tonight for both of these teams. But it's bigger to the Texans because they're already working behind the 8 ball with that 0-3 start. And they got a chance to pull even on 500 and get to 3-3 if they do get that victory tonight in Seattle up against the Seahawks. All righty, just some other takeaways from yesterday real quickly. Matthew Stafford throws 5 touchdown passes. Rams beat the Jaguars. I think that's going to start to be the Jaguars spin in the wrong direction. Caleb Williams and the Bears, they get the job done up against the Saints. It wasn't pretty, but the Bears, most importantly, they win. They've now won 4 in a row. They're 4-2. The Browns, they get a win 31-6 over the Dolphins. How we are sitting here and the show's about to end. And Mike McDaniel is still the coach of the Miami Dolphins is something I don't get. Drake May looks the part and then some. Ramondre Stevenson played well yesterday for the Pats. Pats are going to play the Browns next week. New England is already 5-2. Chiefs blanked the Raiders 31-0. Oh, geez, this Pete Carroll experiment and Geno Smith experiment is just not working out. And I know we could call Kristen California crazy. It may be time to go to Kenny Pickett with the silver and black. Eagles and Vikings, I didn't like the overturn on the TJ Hawkinson touchdown yesterday. I didn't think it was clear and obvious, even though I looked at it and I said, I think it's a catch, but I know how that gets officiated. I didn't think they were going to call it a catch. But the officials on the field said it's absolutely a catch, and then New York says, no, it isn't. That's something that's mystifying to me. But A.J. Brown got going, Devontae Smith got going, and Jalen Hurts got going yesterday with the perfect passer rating and 3 passing touchdowns. And the Eagles get a much-needed victory over the Vikings. The Eagles are now 5-2. The Panthers, they're going to lose Bryce Young for at least a week. He suffered an ankle injury. The Jets are still the Jets. Their offense is horrific. And isn't it funny, Aaron Glenn, last week, how stupid is it for people to ask me if I'm going to bench the quarterback? Well, he did bench his quarterback in Justin Fields, and Tyrod Taylor came in. Carolina is now 4-3 on the season. What a crazy back-and-forth game between the Broncos and the Giants. Looks like the Giants are going to blow out the Broncos in the fourth quarter. You had all those lead changes. How Denver outscored the Giants in the fourth, 33-13, is still crazy. But now the Broncos are 5-2. The Giants fall to 2-5. Colts, they're playing like they are the best team in the NFL right now. Who would have ever thought we would have said that? They're 6-1. The Chargers had such a good start to the season. I know they've had some injuries. They're a little disappointing right now at 4-3. Commanders, no Terry McLaurin, no Deebo Samuel. Big problems. Jaden Daniels got hurt, and we'll see how much time he's going to miss. But Dak Prescott did get CeeDee Lamb back. George Pickens continues to play really well. And Javonte Williams got going on the ground yesterday for the Cowboys. They crushed the Commanders 44-22. How about 3? We didn't mention this in Studs or Duds. And I almost gave him my stud. Micah Parsons, 3 sacks yesterday. A career day for Micah Parsons. I know you would have wished that the score was a little bit more lopsided, but the Packers, they are now 4-1-1 in the season. They do beat the Cardinals by a score of 27-23. And then the Falcons. I never love when you call a week 6 game like your coming out party and it shows that you arrive. Well, what you do the next week? You went up against a decimated 49ers team. Christian McCaffrey scored 2 touchdowns in the contest, and they beat you 20-10. So after what was a tremendous victory on Monday, a game that I was at a week ago in Atlanta over the Bills, and maybe it just highlights the issues with the Bills. I know the Falcons have some talent, but you scored 10 points. Fred Warner is out for the year for the 49ers. I think it's easier to say who is playing for the 49ers than who isn't playing for the 49ers. And you only get 10 points? How it could change from the beginning of the week to the end of the week in the NFL. And you had the Bills and the Ravens on the bye. All righty, that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll be back tomorrow on a Tuesday. Big thanks to Nico. Big thanks to Samter. Big thanks to David Waters for tuning on in. And also a big thank you to each and every one of you for calling, listening, tweeting, interacting with us at Instagram and TikTok, at Zach Gelb, Twitter and Instagram, at the Zach Gelb Show on TikTok. And we appreciate you tuning on in, and we will talk to you tomorrow right at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. I'm Zach Gelb. Chat manana, everybody. Enjoy the football and the baseball tonight. Little Game 7. Winner gets the Dodgers in the World Series. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining.